I'm a licensed therapist of over 22 years, and I have seen my fair share of collective trauma here in the US. I have seen what people go through due to the amount of school shootings we have, due to the varying recessions we have. But right now, people are depressed.
Richard, your neighbor, or Richard from, down the street. This is a well-respected Christian philosopher and theologian. Now, he says very clearly that there's basically three ways he thinks that someone could affirm the doctrine of the Trinity or be justified in their belief of the doctrine of the Trinity. Today's episode, guys, I have a very exciting episode for you in which I will be reviewing a short clip from very well-known Christian philosopher Richard Swinburne. Now, he's widely recognized as one of the greatest Christian philosophers and theologians of the 20th century, and really over the past 50 to 60 years. He's up in age now, but still, nevertheless, he is well respected in the Christian community as one of the greatest Christian philosophers and theologians, like I said, of the past 50 or so years. Now, it's very interesting. I came across a lecture that he did in which he very clearly expressed that he doesn't believe that the doctrine of the Trinity can be clearly extracted from the Gospels or the New Testament documents. Now, that's extremely important. He's not therefore saying, and I don't want people to be confused, as if the gospel writers were somehow proto-Orthodox Muslims or something of that. That's not what I'm arguing. However, in dialogues back and forth between Christians and Muslims, we argue much over Christological issues. Who was Jesus? Who was he sent for? Was he God in the flesh? Was he not? Did he teach the doctrine of the Trinity? Did the earliest followers of Jesus actually believe in the doctrine of the Trinity? What does the New Testament say? Did the New Testament authors believe that Jesus was God in the flesh? Did they teach and preach the doctrine of the Trinity to their followers and in their writings? All of these questions are typically debated between Christians and Muslims. And Richard Swinburne makes some very interesting comments in this video which are related to those debates. So I just want to share my screen here and play a small section of this lecture he did, and then give some comments and thoughts on it, inshallah.
It seems to me, although I shall not argue it here, that even if you regard the New Testament as an infallible source of doctrine, you could not derive from it a doctrine of the Trinity. Although there are many passages in the New Testament which speak of Christ as divine, and other passages which speak of the Spirit of God and the Spirit of Christ and of the Comforter, there are non-Trinitarian ways of interpreting the latter passages, which are just as plausible as interpreting them as expressing a doctrine of the Trinity. In other words, it seemed to me you can get two divine persons out of the text of the New Testament, but not three. But I'm not going to argue with that today, but I think quite a number of New Testament scholars would probably agree. So, unless Christians today recognize some good a priori argument for this doctrine, and that's going to be fairly few Christians today, I don't think anyone would be justified in believing it unless they believe that the very fact that the church had interpreted these passages in a Trinitarian way was strong reason for believing that doctrine. Those who do recognize the church's authority to teach normally recognize the Nicene Creed, promulgated by the First Council of Constantinople, as the first binding authoritative statement from which a doctrine of the Trinity can be derived. And indeed, that creed is the only authoritative binding statement on this matter, which is required alike by Catholics, Orthodox, Monophysites, Anglicans, and some Protestants.
Just wanted to share that clip there, but although it was short in terms of length, it was very insightful and very informative. So I just want to break this down. Now, Richard Swinburne, again, as I mentioned, this is not Richard, your neighbor, or Richard from, down the street. This is a well-respected Christian philosopher and theologian. Now, he says very clearly that there's basically three ways he thinks that someone could affirm the doctrine of the Trinity or be justified in their belief of the doctrine of the Trinity. The first is by demonstrating that the New Testament texts actually teach and clearly explicate the doctrine of the Trinity. He doesn't think that this is possible. He says that many New Testament scholars, he thinks, actually agree with him on this, that the doctrine of the Trinity is not clearly taught in the New Testament.
Whoa. So, hey, shalom. First of all, 5 shalom worth of peace to you, family. Everybody come in, like, share, subscribe, get ready to chill. We might throw a link in the chat so that we can converse a little bit, but I just wanted to look at a couple of things. One thing we're going to be really looking at is, scholars and laymen alike just kind of thoroughly debunking the Trinity a little bit. And then, we're going to kind of segue into how America's falling apart and how the Trinity of white deities is not saving this place, how it's all crumbling the way that Yahweh, the Most High God of the Bible, the actual God of the Bible, is making this place to fall to pieces like he promised it would through the prophets. All praises to the Most High. So that's what we're on today. If you are a recurring visitor, if you're a family member, you always in here supporting. Thank you for being here promptly and early on. It's going to be casual. I'm going to do a whole lot of teaching unless somebody wants to come up and converse, in which case we can casually have a hospitable discussion. Hopefully, if we can't do that, then we won't have a discussion. But we're going to just watch a little bit of material and see what the scholars and the laymen have to say with regards to the Trinity for right now. So come in, relax, make yourself comfortable, and, throw your feedback in the chat. Any arguments that you heard against the Trinity that you might want to share. I firmly believe that there ain't no Trinity in the Bible. I do believe that is something that is added, something that is forced into the text. I don't believe that a lot of the text that people would see as Christophanies are Christophanies at all. I don't believe in the westernized theology that makes up the Christian doctrine at all. I'm trying to go back to the ancient Near East as far back as possible and stay as close as possible to the way that would have looked. So that's what we own over here at Fire of God. Join the ministry. Hit us up at fireofgodclassroom@gmail.com. Feel free to support the ministry monetarily if it's on your heart. $, Call. Feel free to do that. All the books that I use, a lot of those y'all have helped me with. A lot of the books that you see me sourcing from, a lot of the ones I haven't even brought to the forefront yet, that I got the brothers in study, y'all have helped with those. And so your help is always appreciated. That being said, I'm gonna shut my mouth and let's just watch some of this footage. I want to see what I hear that I've never heard before, because I always want to put another arrow in my quiver, like my right-hand man in the chat, Azariah, Yahweh, Shalom.
Or the Gospels. And he also mentions that, well, at the very most, you could maybe get 2 divine persons, in which case you'd have Binitarianism, or the idea that there are 2 divine persons in God, rather than Trinitarianism. Now, I would reject that. I mean, it depends on what you actually mean by Binitarianism or 2 divine persons, because I think even in the highest Christology in the New Testament, you don't have it clearly taught that Jesus is co-equal, co-eternal to the Father, meaning a second divine person in terms of his divinity and status equal to the Father. Nevertheless, Richard Swinburne is saying that at most you could get is Binitarianism. Now, that's a really interesting admission from someone of his stature and status, given the fact, as I said, that this is a hotly debated issue between Muslims and Christians, and even Trinitarian Christians and Unitarian Christians. Then he goes from that and says, well, there is another way that you could possibly affirm that the doctrine of the Trinity is true. And this is one way that he tries to do it, which is by giving an a priori rational argument, which is to say an argument that is based
come
on
in, make yourself
reason
comfortable.
and
Thank
not
you for coming through.
necessarily based on the text of scripture or tradition or so-called church authorities, but a rational argument for the doctrine of the Trinity. Now, he goes on in the rest of the lecture to attempt to do that, but he even admits, which is something very important to notice, that most Christians today would not believe in not only Richard Swinburne's attempt at a rational argument for the necessity of the doctrine of the Trinity, but really any a priori rational argument or philosophical argument for the necessity of the Trinity. He says that most Christians or most Trinitarians wouldn't actually agree with this.
I would argue that most of the specialists that really dabble with ancient Near Eastern culture and religion, I highly doubt that any of them would agree with the Trinity. Anybody that actually cares about a Tanakh-based studies, the belief that the Jews that ended up teaching the gospel would have believed, I don't believe that they would even try to substantiate a Trinity using half of the scriptures that your average Christian would go to today and say, oh, look, see, this means that Jesus is God. I don't believe it.
Right. And he goes on to give this sort of argument for the Trinity from divine love, which many people would be familiar with, that the only way in which a God could be perfectly loving is if he existed in community of a Trinity of persons from eternity. Now, I reject this argument. I've gone through it in detail and have given detailed objections and rebuttals in other videos.
Even something like that, like a lot of times it'd be, let me force the westernized version of what it is to love and what it is to be perfect onto this deity. And then when I do that, I then have to force fit this deity into that limited box when he never existed there in the first place. You can't box the Most High in. The least you can do is try to understand him from the perspective of the people that presented you with the information that you claim to study in order to get to know him. You see what I'm saying? That'd be the first and foremost problem of this so-called church. And I believe that it's that lack of understanding and that pride and that arrogance that made the church into what it is today that is behind the reason why the Most High is not protecting this place. He's not protecting the West at all. And he's definitely not protecting the United States of America because God is not in America. God is not in the West. He is against the West. I mean, he's against all the nations, but, the West totes him up. They try to claim like they're toting him and they play high and mighty like the Lord is behind them, but he's not. They weaponize their white supremacy and their religion that makes them feel justified in their actions, and they have their version of what's good and what's perfect and what's righteous, and they try to rule the world with the sword, and they fall back on that so that they can sleep at night, but it's not going to work anymore. You know what I'm saying? If God was here, there would be fairness, there'd be justice, and we wouldn't be able to hear some of the things that we're about to hear. You know what I'm saying? After we hear some of these analyses about the Trinity doctrine, and we hear some of the debunking that takes place, we're going to hear some reports about what's going on in the United States of America, how everybody's struggling. Even that middle class white family that everybody was striving to be, you wanted to at least be that middle class white family. You didn't want to be at the bottom of the bottom. Well, in 2026, you're either at the bottom of the bottom or you're at the very elite, something that we should have known was going to take place all along. We've been talking about it here. When I was at the Sakari, we was talking about it for the last 11 years. I've been doing this work. We've been telling y'all and telling y'all and telling y'all. And now that middle class has collapsed and fallen down amongst the bottom class, and they're panicking. And I think that represents the way that the United States is crumbling. I think that is the ultimate signal of how the Most High is doing that thing in the earth that he promised us he was going to do to Mystery Babylon. All praises to the Most High.
Those that are available on my channel. So I'm not going to do that here. But I want people to note that even a proponent like Richard Swinburne of this argument recognizes that most Christian Trinitarians don't accept this type of argumentation or really any a priori rational arguments for the necessity of the Trinity. This doesn't only
I want to tell you the fascinating story about when the Trinity verse was added to the Bible. And this is a very well...
He's probably talking about the Joinian comma. He's probably talking about the Joinian comma. I want to see what he's about to say, if he's about to get it accurate.
Documented historical fact. And for our guide, I want to quote from Whose Word Is It? The story behind who changed the New Testament and why, by
Bart Ehrman, probably.
Professor Bart Ehrman, who is an expert on textual criticism on biblical manuscripts. And he tells us this story, which I just want to share with you. Now, we need to go back in time to the 16th century, and we need to look at a guy called Erasmus. Erasmus was an enterprising scholar from Holland, a Dutch scholar, who produced the very first printed edition of the Greek New Testament. Now, the New Testament itself was written in Greek. In the centuries afterwards, it got translated into Latin, and the church tended to use the Latin translation. So Erasmus produced a text in the original Greek, which he hoped would be a critical scholarly edition. This is called the first published edition. Now, for the most part, Bart Ehrman says he relied on a handful of late medieval manuscripts. In fact, on just one 12th century manuscript of the Gospels, and another also from the 12th century for the book of Acts and the epistles. And as we shall see, he says, it's this edition that he...
Wait, first of all, look, Nicholas Jacob, shalom. No, Gallo, shalom. Highness 144K, shalom, shalom. Lily in the building, shalom. Like, share, and subscribe, yeah. We really just starting off. We just easing our way into it. Christians, feel free to join in. Do you have any pushback on any of this information? Because we wanted to be honest.
Produced of the Greek New Testament that was used by the later translators of the King James Bible a century later, and virtually all translations until the end of the 19th century. And he tells a very interesting story then about this Trinity verse. And he says, indeed, as it turns out, these manuscripts that Erasmus used were not of the best quality. They were, after all, produced some 1100 years after the originals. For example, the main manuscript that Erasmus used for the Gospels contained both the story of the woman taken in adultery in John's Gospel and the last verses in Mark's Gospel, which tell the story of the resurrection in the earliest Gospel. Passages that did not originally form part of the Gospels, as we learned in the preceding chapter. And he rightly shows that the earliest manuscripts, the Codex Sinaiticus, for example, does not contain any resurrection appearances in the earliest Gospel in the New Testament, the Gospel of Mark. There was one key passage of Scripture that Erasmus's sources manuscripts did not contain, however. This is the account of 1 John 5, verse 7 and 8. And this is the first letter of John in the New Testament, chapter 5, verses 7 to 8, which scholars have called the Johannine comma. The Johannine comma. Johannine means...
The Joinian comma, hey, this is one of them go-tos. And it seems like it's being used less and less. I'm not on all the platforms no more. I'm not on Clubhouse no more. I have not seen that TikTok community where people are going live and doing apologetics there. But as far as YouTube goes, and as far as Christian apologists goes, I be sneaking a ear shot every now and then, and I don't hear them pulling Judge Johinian comments. So I do feel, based on my limited experience, that they're starting to catch on to that is not a place to go to. But I used to ask, like, what does that even mean to you? There are three that bear record. Like, what does that even mean? How do you substantiate that there are only three? And if not only three, then what's the significance in the way that they bear record that you know what I'm saying, that the rest of the heavenly hosts don't bear record. So it's like, even if you pull that, I got gasoline for you and I got the lighter in the other hand, but I think they're starting to catch on. All praises to the Most High. Lord willing, what we'll do is just walk them down till they're all out of runway, and then they just, they submit to the fact that there's one true God and that His Son is sitting at His right hand. You see what I'm saying? Hopefully, that's what'll take place.
John, and the comma is just these sentences. Now, they are found in the manuscripts of the Latin Vulgate.
Right.
So these are the later translations made into Latin, as I said before, but not in the vast majority of Greek.
So the thing is, and there's mythology out there about how this takes place, like how you get this footnote, this comma, which just means short sentence, added in amongst the text. But what I heard, what I seen was that, somebody was like, I want this phrase in the Bible. And then so the person that was drafting it up said, well, if you can find a manuscript with it in there, then it'll go in there. And so the individual in question went and put it in made a manuscript up and put it in there. And, there you have it. Later, it's put into the Latin Vulgate. I don't know how substantial that data is, but we know for a fact that it wasn't amongst the original manuscripts. I would be curious, as far as what goes on with the even earlier text that we never got to get an eye on, like the Hebrew Matthew, that the Ebionites and the Nazarenes would have dealt with. Let me stop.
Manuscripts. A passage that has long been a favourite among Christian theologians, of course, since it's the only passage in the entire Bible that explicitly delineates the doctrine of the Trinity, and that there are three persons in the Godhead, but that these three all constitute just one God. So in the Vulgate, which is found in our King James Version, I just want to read the passage. So this is the King James Version, the Holy Bible. It says, "For there are three that bear witness in heaven, the Father, the Word, and the Holy Spirit, and these three are one. And these are three that bear witness on earth, the Spirit, the water, and the blood. And these three agree as one." So this is from the King James Version. And Bart Ehrman says, "This is a mysterious passage, but unequivocal in its support of the traditional teachings of the Church on the triune God who is one. Without this verse, the doctrine of the Trinity must be inferred from a range of passages combined together to show that Christ is God, as is the Spirit and the Father, and that there is nonetheless only one God. This passage, in contrast, states the doctrine directly and succinctly. But Erasmus did not find it in his Greek manuscripts. Now, this is the point. He used the best manuscripts that he had around in his city, which were actually not very good manuscripts by our standards today. The Greek manuscripts that he...
Hey, man, all praises, man. It's good to be used by the Most High. There's a lot of things that if you're on the Torch and Trumpet channel, if you call Windermere there's a lot of development that's taking place with the doctrine. So a lot of the videos that you've seen, if you're catching Windermere via that channel, are old, and there have been some developments, but hopefully, if all goes according to plan, you'll be able to see how some of that develops as I use these old videos to trigger new conversations on some of these old topics. You feel me? But I'm glad that you found the videos edifying. That's all we could ever hope to be, those of us that's teaching the truth and, trying to minister to the nation. All praises to the Most High. Thank you, family.
He read simply said, "There are three that bear witness, the Spirit, the water, and the blood, and these three are one." So where did the Father, the Word, and the Spirit go? They were not in Erasmus's primary manuscript or in any of the others that he consulted, and so naturally he left them out of his first edition of the Greek text, as a good scholar would do, because there's no evidence that this verse is in the Greek manuscripts. More than anything else, it is this leaving out of this verse that outraged Christian theologians of his day, who accused Erasmus of tampering with the text in an attempt to eliminate the doctrine of the Trinity and to devalue its corollary, the doctrine of the full divinity of Christ.
That's crazy.
As the story goes, Erasmus, possibly in an unguarded moment, agreed that he would insert the verse in a future edition of his Greek New Testament on one condition: that his opponents produce a Greek manuscript in which the verse could be found.
All right, so what he's saying is in line with what I heard. I don't know if y'all heard me moments ago. I heard the same exact thing, and I'm not gonna lie, I was so thrown off by how diabolical the entity behind what is now known as the church, that is not a church at all. Well, maybe it's a church of Satan, right? We can call the Christian church the church of Satan, because it's all based on deception. There's nothing but deception in it. And, some proponents of it will be called Hebrew Israelism. Some of them, some of y'all is of Satan as well. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to be biased by any means, but this wicked church that thrives in the earth, that's been in power for so long and has done so little for the world, but make people feel like they're better than other people just because of who they say they believe in, not the things that they do, but the things they say they believe in, even if they prove to believe something else. President of the United States, for example, any of them. Yeah, we on that type of time today. That church is built upon lies. So when I first heard this, I was so dumbfounded. It was like, man, I'm really in the middle of a movie. They really hijacked somebody's whole history, somebody's whole message, and then inserted something else in there. And they were willing to deface documents, if you will, or what do you call that? Not plagiarize, but forge documents for the sake of inserting a lie into somebody else's records, into somebody else's story, for somebody else's purpose, and make it their own. And it was like, well, what's any different from anything else they ever did? The proponents of white supremacy and all. I mean, the West, the Eurocentric nations, all that. So, I don't know why I was so surprised, but, I found out about it when I'm in the midst of discovering the truth and learning I'm an Israelite, and I'm doing all this studying and just coming to find out how diabolical that this has all been behind the scenes. It still shocks me to this day to hear him say it after seeing it myself so long ago. It's like, damn, like we're really in this, y'all. The Most High really said that he's gonna kindle the wrath of a wicked multitude over us. I'm obviously paraphrasing that. He really said he's gonna scatter us amongst our enemies. He said we were really gonna worship wood and stone. He said that we was really gonna be blind, and we was gonna grope in the noonday as if it was midnight in the darkness. He really said that Satan was going to be controlling the world, prince of power of the air and all that. And here we are. And so when we bear witness to things like these, if they don't shake you awake and clear your sinuses, I don't know what will. It has refreshed my zeal in what I do when I go into these texts and try to bring out the truth of them. It should do the same for y'all. Like, because we're really dealing with a demon, y'all. We're really dealing with somebody who's willing to lie about who God is for their own gain. And he's gonna receive a demon's reward. All praises to the Most High. But we need to make sure we're not caught up with him when that happens. So my brothers and sisters in the Christian church, if you're listening quietly and you're thinking of being defensive, please don't. Why don't you just please, I'll even run it back, and please research this for yourself. And at least when you find out this was added, don't use it anymore. Don't lean on it anymore to try to substantiate your belief. And every time you find out something you've been told was a lie, please just let it go little by little. Prove all things and then hold fast to that which is good, right? Please do that.
On one condition, that his opponents produce a Greek manuscript in which the verse could be found in a future edition of his Greek New Testament, on one condition, that his opponents produce a Greek manuscript in which the verse could be found. Finding it in Latin manuscripts was not enough. There were late medieval manuscripts that had it. And so a Greek manuscript was produced. In fact, it was produced for the occasion. It appears that someone copied out the Greek text of the epistles, and when he came to the passage in question, he translated the Latin text into Greek, giving the Johannine comma in its familiar, theologically useful form. The manuscript provided to Erasmus, in other words, was a 16th century production made to order. So
That's
Erasmus
crazy.
demanded, I want to see this in a Greek
You know
manuscript.
what I'm saying? At BK, you can have it your way. And in the Christian church, you can have manuscripts. You can have them printed up for you like America prints money. Like they print fake money. They printed up a fake manuscript of the so-called New Testament.
Manuscript. And his opponents say, okay, and they went away and they made one, literally made one up in the 16th century, in Erasmus's day, wrote it out, included the verse, the Johannine comma about the Trinity, stuck it in and gave it to him. Say, there you are, there's your Greek manuscript. Go ahead and produce your good critical scholarly text. Despite his misgivings, Erasmus was true to his word and included the Johannine comma, this is the Trinity verse, in his next edition and in all his subsequent editions. These editions, as I've already noted, became the basis for the editions of the Greek New Testament that were later reproduced time and time again by translators over the centuries. These editions provided the form of the text that the translators of the King James Bible eventually used. And so familiar passages to readers of the English Bible, from the King James in 1611 onward, up to modern editions in the 20th century, include the woman taken in adultery, the last 12 verses of Mark, which mention the resurrection, and the Johannine comma, even though none of these passages can be found in the oldest and superior Greek New Testament manuscripts. They entered into the English stream of consciousness merely by a chance of history, based on manuscripts that Erasmus happened to have handy to him, and one that was manufactured for his benefit. The various Greek editions of the 16th and 17th century were so much alike that eventually printers could claim that they were the text that was universally accepted by all scholars and readers of the Greek New Testament, as indeed they were, since there were no competitors. The most quoted claim is found in an edition produced in 1633 by Abraham and Bonaventure Elzea, who were uncle and nephew, in which they told their readers, in words that have become famous since among scholars, that you now have the text that is received by all, in which we have given nothing changed or corrupted. The phrasing of this line, especially the words text that is received by all, provides us with the common phrase textus receptus, or abbreviated as TR. And this is what it's known as today, the textus receptus, a term used by textual critics to refer to that form of the Greek text that is based not on the oldest or the best manuscripts, but on the form of the text published by Erasmus and handed down to printers for more than 300 years, until textual scholars recently began insisting that the Greek New Testament should be based on scientific principles, based on our oldest and best manuscripts, not simply reprinted again and again according to custom. It was the inferior textual form of the textus receptus that stood at the base of the earliest English translations, including the King James.
Hey, what is it? Who knows what textus receptus means? Who knows what textus receptus means in Latin? I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you how dogmatic things are. Show you how dogmatic things are. Let's see if I can show you something else too. So nobody knows. That's cool because we gonna tell you. So Texas Receptus means received text. The Texas Receptus, the received text, essentially meaning that it is the text that is accepted. Let me see if I'm getting that right. I might not remember. Yeah, it means received text in Latin. Then you got the majority text, and the majority text is what this gentleman is now talking about, where scholars started to demand that something a little bit more scientifically sound as far as the chain of custody of information is dealt with, and how something is deemed authoritative, right? So you got the Texas Receptus, which your King James New Testament comes from, which has this disgusting comma added into it, and then you got the majority text, both Byzantinian, but the Texas Receptus is the one that was biasly chosen for the sake of passing down a brand new tradition when compared to the old church, the one that was based on Israelites, the one that was built by Israelites, the one that was for Israelites, and the one that was going to be a light to the Gentiles until the Most High showed that he was saving that for a latter time. Let me just continue in the footage.
James Bible and other editions until the end of the 19th century.
That's crazy.
So there we have the story of the Textus Receptus, which is still venerated by fundamentalist Christians, especially in the United States. The King James Version.
It'd be Israelites that be like, man, see, that's why you got to deal with that King James. No, I mean, like, bro, like, there's a lot of rhetoric about how it's the best with the Hebrew, but like, okay, prove it. Prove it's the best with the Hebrew. You're just saying that because somebody said it to you, because somebody said it to them, and somebody said it to them, and then you sound stupid, because then when it's time to talk about how this verse is added into a whole manuscript, what are you going to say? Does it best match the ancient Greek? No, it had to be taken from the Latin, which is later, and then put into the Greek, which is older. And so it's not. The King James Version is not the best. I've been rocking with the ESV for a while. I'll rock with the not the NOT so much, because I don't want the idea for idea. Sometimes that could be a little bit confusing. I'll deal with the ESV sometimes, and I'll deal with the NIV sometimes, but mostly I'm dealing with the ESV. I'm not saying completely abandon the KJV. I'll mess with the KJV, but what I try to make sure that I do is balance and look at all the translations, and then I have my top 3 that I'll go to. But it's good to be balanced in the way that you examine things, especially when you find out that the King James Version was put together the way that it was. I mean, and people grow in knowledge. If knowledge is increasing for us, it's increasing for the ops as well. You know what I mean? So let's be smart about this thing.
Only movement say this is the pure, unadulterated word of God. But of course, it's based on late medieval manuscripts. We have manuscripts now that go back even to the 4th century AD, the Codex Sinaiticus famously, which of course does not have the Johannine comma. It doesn't have the story of the woman caught in adultery. It doesn't have the resurrection appearances in the earliest gospel. And there's a whole bunch of other things which I won't go into as well. So
it's crazy because people will be like, the NIV or remove verses from the Bible, and it's like, damn, bro. It is cold because you'll think somebody is a demon and that they tampered with the word of God when really it's not in there, because they're trying to make sure that not only are they being intellectually responsible, but they're just being honest about the materials they're dealing with. They're trying not to add to the text, and they're being demonized because you are so you're so breastfed by the system that you trusted with everything. So that when something goes outside that plane, there's no rational reason why it might have happened. It's just because automatically, the government is trying to hide the truth from us and X, Y, Z. You see what I'm saying? There's a short that I did on the matter. I want to see if I can find that real fast. You see what I'm saying? We just really have to do better. Here we go. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Let me share my screen. This white girl was tripping.
It seems I have taken myself down a very large rabbit hole because I just came across a TikTok that said the Bible tells you how to heal yourself from all sickness and diseases. Matthew 17:21. To Matthew 17.
I'm dying laughing because bruh pointing up there like, yep, preach, sister. Preach.
21 to read it in the Bible that I read every day. It's not here. It goes from Matthew 17:20 to Matthew 17:22. 21's not in here. There's not a number 21 in here. So we got two more. I opened them up to see if they are in here.
Look, man, if jumping to conclusions had a face, watch this. If jumping to conclusion had a face, this would be the face, her up here. And then him down here, he's like, it's okay to jump to conclusions. If it's okay to jump to conclusions had a face, it'd be him.
They are in fact in these ones. This is the KJV, and then this one is the NKJV, so New King James Version. This, Matthew 17:21.
Trusty King James Version is in there. Thank God somebody is willing to stand for the truth, right? They ain't taking it out of the King James yet. Just listen to this is superstition, bro.
Jesus tells us in his words, because it's in red, because I don't know if you know this, but in a lot of old Bibles, if it's in red, that means Jesus said it in his words. Howbeit this kind goeth not out, but by prayer and fasting. We open this one up. Matthew 17:21. Oh, that is a huge problem. I'm sorry, Jesus. We have to fix that. Matthew 17:21, and these are in red also. 17:21 in red again. However, this kind does not go out except by prayer and fasting. So Jesus literally tells us from day one, and this is how corrupt the government and the USA and everybody that's involved is, because Jesus literally tells us in his words, fast and pray.
Conspiracy theory and all that. She sound like there's a camp that get real superstitious. There's a camp out there that said I'm in the Taliban because I had a white and red scarf on my head. They say he's in the Taliban. He's an agent. She's from that camp, bro. She said the government. She's blaming the government for this. This is hilarious. Watch. I'm gonna just let me shut up, man. I'm enjoying this too much.
Jesus literally tells us in his words, fast and pray, and you will be healed from sickness and diseases. The government don't want us to know that though, so they took it out the Bible.
So I wanted to quickly respond to this. Hopefully this makes things clear. When you're doing a translation, it has to come from a source material. When it comes to the case of the King James Bible, as far as the New Testament is concerned, it comes from the Textus Receptus primarily. So when you get verses like Matthew 17:21, what you'll find is that the translators actually added a footnote in there based on the book of Mark, which contains the same story, except for that verse is there. The verse that says that these things come out come not out without prayer and fasting. When you look at these newer translations like the NLT, the NIV, ETC, they come from older manuscripts like the Codex Vaticanus, the Codex Sinaiticus. Those footnotes aren't there. Therefore, they're not translated as verses. But in a lot of those newer Bibles, or if you go on the Blue Letter Bible, you'll see that that omission is there, but they'll actually let you know via a footnote of their own that this verse, this thing that we all acknowledge as a verse now, is in fact missing, and it's missing because it's not in the manuscript that they translated from. So there's nothing nefarious going on there. I hope that added some clarity. If not, ask some questions. Maybe I'll have to make a video about it in the future.
Hopefully, I don't have to make a video about it in the future. Hopefully, that simplified things enough. But we are in dire times. Why are we in dire times? Well, let's thank the church. This is something that we can thank the church for, right? The church has brainwashed people so much that we're convinced that the way they packaged this book is that it fell down from heaven and they have preserved it in all this time. And really, it's preferential treatment over certain texts. As we know, you come into the truth, a lot of times you get your hands on a 1611. Why? Because you find out there's books missing. Well, this group has also added verses to the Bible while removing whole books, whole chapters from the Bible. You see what I'm saying? But fast forward 2026, you got people thinking that the government is the one removing verses, when really it was the government that was adding verses. I don't even want to do that. It's the government that was adding verses into the Bible. So then now that they're gone, you think somebody then tampered with the word of God. See, this man is playing God in that Vatican and in that pulpit, in that church, man. And so, that's why I bid you, man, come out of that wicked cult known as Christianity. By all means, be a follower of Christ, but really follow him. What you do to follow somebody is you literally get behind them and then you follow their steps. You don't be veering off to the side of them, trying to create your own path and look at him from the side and mimic his movements. The scriptures say that Christ left footsteps for us, a pattern that we can follow, trail from behind. We don't do that in Christianity. We try to establish our own righteousness, and we say it's Christ that allows us to do so. And it's just not. It's just not, family. We're going to deviate a little bit before we get back on the Trinity. Look at this. This is the state of America. And this is God. This is the Christian God's America.
And they can't afford their bills, their mortgage. Y'all, it's happening again. I'm a licensed therapist of over 22 years, and I have seen
I want to talk to the Christians. Would the commandments help? If people actually kept the commandments, would the world be better, or would it still be like this? All the Christians, all the people that disagree with the Hebrew Israelites and going back to the law, I don't want to talk about if the law justifies you. I want to say is keeping the law better than what America got going on and got the middle class collapsing. That 100 plus K, that 100K, 150K class, that's the new low class. And to hell with the rest of you. You see what I'm saying? That's what this Christian God's America has going on. So in your honest opinion, with keeping Torah, if everybody kept Torah, let's just assume everybody kept it properly, would the world be better or would it be worse? Because this is what Christianity is giving us. Christians, chime in. I'm going to drop a link because I really want y'all to answer me on that note. Let's just listen to some of these tales that are being told. Am I surprised? No. We've been telling y'all it's coming for the longest time, and y'all been laughing and y'all been pointing because we got strings hanging from the bottoms of our shirts, and we got the tassels on, the colorful tassels on, and we have our beards growing even if they patchy like mine. We do the things that we do. I would hope that most of us do the things that we do because we love the Lord. We've been telling you things are going to look this way. You've been laughing, but you've been laughing your way here. You know what I'm saying? That 150K that made you think that you were better. that 100K, that 80K that made you think that you were better than the average person next to you, that's failing you now. So what do you have? Because your Christian God has abandoned you. That Trinity, not one of them three dudes is doing anything for you. But the Most High God, he's sitting back, he's laughing, and he's heaped up judgment for this wicked nation. And this is what it looks like, because it's slowly rolling out.
My fair share of collective trauma here in the US. I have seen what people go through due to the amount of school shootings we have, due to the varying recessions we have.
Who's doing that? White Jesus loving Christian families that got the school shooters coming up in the house.
But right now, people are depressed, anxious, and they can't afford their bills, their mortgage, their groceries, their anything. People are not able to have a night out, to go on vacation, to decompress. Because here in the US, we don't get a lot of paid time off from jobs the way that other countries do. So, unsurprisingly, our collective mental health is in the toilet. And so many of us saw this coming. And on top of that, people can't afford mental health care.
I just split my groceries 3 different ways in order to pay.
Yo, this one right here, this is hilarious. You know what I'm saying? My wife, she's the one that was playing this for me. And I couldn't stop the laughter because this little broad right here, what she's about to say, I'm dying laughing because I'm like, hey, welcome to being a nigga. You know what I'm saying? But we're expected to, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to tell you like your uncle told me, Becky, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Why don't you? Shout out to this is the Roxy Jules in the building. Shalom, shalom, 5 shalom, worth of peace.
For them, with a line of people behind me. I wanted to cry so bad walking out of that store.
Oh, no.
It was so embarrassing.
I have personally seen mothers with their babies cry in line at the grocery store before I could understand what was going on, before I knew what it was to earn $1, even doing chores around the house, you know what I'm saying? Before even doing chores around the house to try to get $1 for some candy. Before I ever understood that, I've seen mothers cry in the grocery store. And, you know, since then, growing up in the South End of Seattle, I've seen mothers cry in the grocery store because the money that she thought was there wasn't there. Maybe a bill got drafted out of the account and she didn't expect it or whatever the case may be. She don't know what to do. The kids is crying. Dad working about 4 jobs just to find out them 4 jobs ain't paying for their groceries. Parents giving up their lunch so that their kids could have lunch, not eating dinner so that their kids could have dinner. I came from a household like that where my dad wouldn't eat sometimes so that we could eat. We used to have to split the groceries. We used to have to put them up on the side of the conveyor belt and find out what we was going to keep or not. I remember I would sit at the table. I'd be trying to do my homework. My mom be sitting there with a envelope, right, with a bill envelope, and then she'd have all the bills. She'd be doing the math. My dad be at work. She'd be doing the math, adding them all up, subtracting, right, figuring out what was going to be left, budgeting. I remember seeing what that would look like. I remember seeing her be so stressed, and I didn't understand what was going on. I just knew shit. I hate math too, Mom. I hate that long subtraction. God damn it. I hate that long subtraction. I was like, my mom hate long subtraction. Then, you know I'm on an okay path because she's a grown up and I'm not. You know what I'm saying? I knew what that felt like. And you know what people would do? They would tell us that we're making a big deal out of it, make the best of it, pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, get an education. I bet you this little broad got an education, but she was in line the other day and she was gonna cry because she had to spend her groceries. The thing that's so funny about it, and the thing, this is the main thing that made me want to do this particular live on this particular topic, because this is the glory of the Grecians. You see what I'm saying? When you see what the glory of the nation is looking like, how she crying, then you know the direction that the nation is going. You know, people look at us and they see how our women act at their worst, right? They never want to highlight what the best of our women is doing. But when they see what our women is doing at their worst, they like to highlight that. And it's an overall look at the people. When they see how our men are acting, and it's a look down at all of the people. You know what I'm saying? It's letting you know that the glory is gone from this people. It says, what does the scripture say? They say that folly is set in great dignity. Yeah, folly is set in great dignity. That's what they put up on a pedestal when it comes to us, so they can look at us and justify the way that they treat us. What a glory of the Grecians is crying in line at the grocery store because she got to split her groceries with a college education, probably. And hell with that, with a high school education at least, they would say it would increase your income that much more. You should be able to at least be doing decently in that lower class. You know what I'm saying? But Lassie's hair is falling out over here because she had to split her groceries. She wanted to cry. That black mom, man, she used to cry in that grocery store. And she used to put her head back up. She used to tell them babies it would be okay. She would leave some of them bags because she had to leave some of it at the store, and she would take that little bit and she would show them babies it was gonna be all right. Top ramen all week. And make it look good, damn it. Get the babies up to church so they can learn about the God, the fake God that got the Grecian nation looking like this. Yeah, all that. And I praise the Most High because thanks to him, I saw it coming. And I want y'all to think about that. If y'all saw this coming, you were blessed. And if you saw this coming and you were blessed, you might have even taken it for granted. I'm not pointing no fingers at nobody. You might have even taken it for granted. And this might be an opportunity for you to say, dang, thank you. Because you've been preparing me this for all my life. Everybody else is about to panic. This is literally it hitting the fan for some people groups. When 150K ain't getting you what it used to get you and you got to split your groceries, you don't know what to do with that. You don't know how to make do with top ramen. You don't know what it's like to be lucky to be able to make hash brown sandwiches. And if you want to mix it up and make it interesting, you put cheese between the hash brown sandwiches. I'm talking about the frozen hash browns too. The ones that used to be in the long white box, you know what I'm saying? There's a white box that was like this high. You got the hash brown sticking out the top. They shaped like the McDonald's hash browns. That box right there used to be like $1.99. Used to get a few of those at the house, and we would have hash brown sandwiches in the summer. Me and my bros. And if it was top ramen too. And if we was balling, I'm eating 2 packs of top ramen at once because I could do it. And I felt good about it. But these people that have had the silver spoon in their mouth, and then all of a sudden something's going wrong, and 100K ain't doing it no more, and Becky's crying at the store, this is literally ish hitting the fan for them. And the Most High has not prepared them for this spiritually, but he has prepared you for this spiritually because you know what it is like to be hungry. I want you to think about the scriptures when they say, blessed are the poor in spirit. The poor ones, the Ebion, the Ebionim, the Ebionites, you know what I'm saying? The real followers of Christ, the poor ones. He's been preparing you for this. The chastisement that's been getting ready for you to keep your head up when everybody else has nothing just like you and you're not losing your damn wits about it. That's a blessing. All this time. Your parents will probably say it's all good. You know what I'm saying? The Lord loves us. And you'd be like, how? Well, this is how, because she don't understand how she's possibly going to survive having to split her groceries. Some of you had less than I had with the top ramen or the hash brown sandwiches or the frozen chicken wings you got to make it stretch all week. Or maybe you had some bread left. I wasn't doing mayonnaise sandwiches. I was doing Miracle Whip sandwiches because I was a bougie nigga. You see what I'm saying? Miracle Whip sandwiches at the crib. Peanut butter and no jelly, jelly and no peanut butter. Y'all ain't never got two things that match. They didn't know what that was like. They didn't know what it was like. We did. And we found a way to thank the Most High for it anyway. Hey, there's a real one right there. Urban Trade, 7093. He said peanut butter on a spoon. Peanut butter on a spoon. All praises to the Most High for that peanut butter on a spoon. For that Kool-Aid. It wasn't good for us, but it was good to us. And we knew the Most High was being good to us. Some of us didn't appreciate it. I didn't appreciate it until now. Now that I'm seeing like the Most High really prepared me for some shit. Because my dad wouldn't let me go sell no dope knowingly. He wouldn't let me go, do X, Y, Z. And it wasn't an excuse. I still had to be dignified and represent the way that he and my mother was trying to raise me and expected us to have dignity because he was raised. And they made a little into a whole lot. And they was expected to have dignity and still do right. You see what I'm saying? The Most High gave us a whole lot when he gave us a little. Didn't allow us to be spoiled anymore when our minds was all wrong. But look, I just had to go on that rant real quick and I'm going to start this again. But this is shit hitting the fan for Edom.
It was so embarrassing.
It's embarrassing. Oh my God. Oh no. Oh my God. Somebody get that girl a napkin. Don't let her cry like that. Don't let little Becky cry like that. And he said we have Flavor Aid. Hey, all praises to the Most High. Look, you gotta do it like that. You had to do it like that. You know what I'm saying? You got them dollar store drinks. Ooh. Look, it'd be like that. I remember I used to want Nestle's Quick. My dad be like, look, my dad, man, he was clever and crafty. What he would do instead is we go home from the store and he would pour milk in any old cup, but then he put a drop of food coloring in it, and he put some vanilla extract in it, and he put some sugar in it and whip it up. I'm blowing bubbles in that shit. I'm going crazy off the sugar milk. It was basically horchata. Shout out to the North. We wasn't doing no damn Nestle's Quick. What are you talking about? That's a markup. We're not doing that. She had to put the Nestle's Quick back, and she's the one having a temper tantrum. It's supposed to be little Tyler crying about the Nestle Quick getting put back. You see what I'm saying? Let me go back. Let's start over with Becky.
3 different ways in order to pay for them, with a line.
Toilet. And so many of us saw this coming. And on top of that, people
Creamy chicken noodles with the hot dogs, all praises to the Most High. Whoever had top ramen mixed with Hormel's chili. I want to know who's ever done it like that. Pancake syrup milk, that actually sounds fire. Couldn't get the Nestle's. Look, I understand it. Creamy chicken noodles with the hot dogs chopped in it. Look, you better go ahead. Look, man, you got some ghetto spaghetti like that. Look, man. Pancake syrup and milk. Because we couldn't get the Nestle. I'm not gonna lie, it sounds like it's slapping. Pressure Read Profit 144. You had the ramen with the chili? Yes, indeed. Hey, my grandma, because look, my parents would both be working, and so we would stay at my grandma's house right after school. So my grandma, she'll make us something to eat, and a lot of times it would be top ramen with chili, or it would be oatmeal. And if she was really going crazy though, she would put some corn in it. So it would be top ramen and chili, and she put some corn in it. It would be so fire though. Like I can't complain. I'm eating like a little king. You know what I'm saying? I'm eating like a little king. We about to eat top ramen chili with corn and watch Power Rangers. What do I need to worry about? These people love me. They don't have everything, but everything that they have, they love me with it. You see what I'm saying? That's the difference. That is the difference.
Can't afford mental health care.
I just split my groceries 3 different ways in order to pay for them, with a line of people behind me.
What's so funny is that, look, I didn't catch it. What's so funny, she said, in order to pay for them. So she was still able to pay for them. She's not even at the stage yet where she had to put the groceries back. She still was able to pay for them, and she's over here crocodile crying. Hey, I'm pretty sure at the end of this video, she said, so please go support my OnlyFans. Because, you know, these are just little clips strung together.
I wanted to cry so bad walking out of there.
You should have just transferred all the money to one account, dummy. What do you mean you had to split them through? You mean you had active credit lines that you could use? I'm talking about, I done seen sis with the food stamp card run out, card decline, and it seemed like the store clerk trying to embarrass her. That card didn't work. Did it feel like that? Is that what happened? Or is it that you went in the store, you knew it was on your accounts, and so you strategized before you went in there? Your back ain't against the wall, bro. You just unfamiliar with this space. The daughter of the Greeks, the glory of the Grecians. This is the glory of the Grecians. Shout out to white Jesus.
That store. It was so embarrassing. All I want to do is provide for my family and my friends and my.
Look, you never seen a grown man. You never seen a grown man stuff a steak in his pants and then just run as fast as he could out the store. And look, like I had a grown man stuff a steak in his pants and run out the store, just look me in the eyes on the way out. And you know what's going on underneath there without a word being spoken. You know what I'm saying? You're not there yet. You're not really there yet. I'm not really feeling it. I don't really care. You know, maybe Trump got you. He's making America great again as we speak. So, you know, there's that. There's that for you.
Myself. I want to create a future where I can help other people. And I can't even buy my own groceries right now.
I don't believe you want to create a future where you help other people. Let's just take her at her word, right? How? Look what your forefathers gave you and think about how we've been feeling for the past 500 years. Because you're his daughter. This is what you get.
I'm so done struggling.
The current state of the
Oh, you've only begun to struggle, though. That's the part that you don't understand. You've only begun to struggle. It's going to be like Mad Max out here.
economy's kicking my ass. I don't know if I'm the only one, but I feel like my fiance and I just work. We work and work and work and work just to pay.
Like Rihanna, just work. Now you know what it's like to be Mexican. You know what I'm saying? Now you know what it's like to be Jamaican. Now you know what it's like to be Judah when he feel like it.
Pay bills just to afford the house we have, to afford groceries, to make sure that everyone is comfortable. And it's a lot. It is a lot. And you guys can say, oh, the economy is great. Y'all, again, I voted for the current president. The economy is not great. I don't care what you're saying.
She voted for the savior of America, and she's like, look, it's not always cracked up to be. Oh, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like the system is nothing that can be taken advantage of anymore. That's the thing. It's like when you look at the way America was built up, the way the founding fathers, quote unquote, talked about this place, it was always an experiment. And from what I gather, it was always meant to be something where you kind of hammer a tap into the tree, and then you get all of the liquid out of it. You tap it for all its resources. You drain it dry, and then you take those resources, and then you go to another tree, and you set up camp around that tree while you bleed those resources. America is an asset that's going to be discarded once its resources is all gone. It was never meant to last forever, to where they children can continue to, take from the system and all of that. That's the funny thing. But in their white fragility and in their ignorance and in their pride and their arrogance, they tried to convince us that's what it was, and it was fair for everybody. But I'm here to tell you, pal, it's not what's going on.
Saying groceries have gone up exponentially. And I can say specific items because I buy the same specific items when I go to the store. I buy this, that, and the other. And there's no reason for it to be increased, right? Gas. Oh my God. Gas is so unaffordable. And to get to work, you obviously have to buy the gas to get there. And that's affordable. And no one's getting raises. No one's getting bonuses. Like, I'm just stressed to the nines. And I don't know if it's just me, but I know 8 years ago when my fiance and I first were dating, we were able to put much more into savings. Life was much more affordable. And mind you, we were making less then. So obviously something isn't working.
I'm not okay. That's just the truth.
I'm not okay.
And I'm scared.
Ooh.
I'm really worried for what this month brings.
Let's go.
I know I can't keep up this grind of door dashing 13 hours a day to make things work. I'm tired, man. Go out from 6 p.m. to 4 a.m. every day, and then again from 8 o'clock to noon, and I'm not sleeping, I'm not eating, I'm not taking care of myself, but life can't stop.
I mean, let me ask the important question anybody should be asking. Like, did you get an education? Because if you get an education, because we're equals, we're all equals. If you get an education, there should be no reason why you're struggling. You just got to change your mindset. You can't have a victim mentality. You feel me? Because my ancestors came here on ships, and your ancestors came here on ships. And this is the land of opportunity. Carry the one, do the math, and you should be just fine. Something's got to be wrong with you in the way that you look at things. Maybe you're ungrateful for all the civilization that you've been given by the white man. This is just from one American to another. This is hilarious. Not hilarious because somebody is suffering, but it's hilarious because where's all that fucking rhetoric that we've been getting for all this time? Like, where's all that? I would love to do like a facial recognition and see if any of these people's faces pop up next to a black man being shot by a policeman, or having some of these same words towards America and the establishment. I'd love to see them commenting on it in an arrogant manner. Because I just feel like I know that I can at least find one of y'all belittling the struggle before it was your turn to taste it. You see what I'm saying? This is crazy. I love it.
But I also don't know how much more I can take. I think that's the part that's scaring me the most right now, is I don't know how much more I can physically take. So tired, man. Just tired. I'm so tired.
Every single day, I see a new video of someone coming on here crying because they can't afford groceries, crying because they can't afford gas, sitting here panicking because they don't know how they're going to be able to buy their kids food and clothes. They can't even get to work. People struggling to the point of they don't want to be here anymore. They're ready to check out. That's how bad it is. The economy is only good for the wealthy. It is absolutely piss poor for anyone else. And you got all these people up in Washington making $200,000 a year, plus all the benefits they get from stock trading, living high on the hog. They don't even have to go to the gas station or the grocery store. They pay people to do that for them. They don't even know what the prices are. They haven't seen what the price of eggs is. They don't know. They just know they can afford it. They don't have to worry about grocery prices or gas prices. They don't ever see a gas pump or a grocery store. They have people to do it for them. That's why they're so disconnected from reality, because they live in a different reality. They live in a reality where everything is just in arm's reach. They don't have to worry about struggle. They have to worry about, can I afford this? They just buy it because we pay for it for them. And they're just going to keep doing it until we're all living in cardboard boxes. And I don't know about you, but I'll fight to the last drop of blood to make sure that don't happen.
I have not seen my wife or kids in 3 days. On Friday, I woke up at 5 a.m. and I worked until 10. They were all asleep. Saturday, woke up at 5 a.m. I worked until 9:30. They were all asleep.
I remember I used to try to stay awake until my dad got home. Me and my dad were my favorite person growing up. I remember I used to try to stay up until my dad got home because he would work all the way up until nighttime. And he would walk about 3 miles. He would walk about 3 miles to get to the bus stop, 3 miles from the bus stop to home. You know what I'm saying? I remember we used to go to bed and then we would wake up because if we was too young for my mom to leave us at home. So we would go to bed, we would wake up, we would get in the car, and then we would pick my dad up from work. And then the car broke down. And so he used to have to walk 3 miles to and from the bus stop to get to work. Work all day, all night, come home about 11 maybe. And I used to try to stay up just so I could hear him come in the door. Because the way that I knew he used to walk was dark. He'd be like, this is the way I walk home. It was dark, wasn't no street lights. There was a sidewalk, but you just never know what's going to happen. When you were a kid, the dark is a scary thing. So to imagine your hero walking through that, it used to stress me out. So I would stay up at night till I could hear that my dad came in the door, and then I would just knock the hell out. Until it started to stress me out so bad that I just stopped sleeping. I started to experience insomnia before I left grade school, you know. And I wouldn't see my dad in the day. I would just see, for this stretch of time, I wouldn't see my dad. I would just see his silhouette out the window. He's coming home. I know he's opening the door. Hear him go to bed. So, you know, I get it. But I was expected to be in tip-top shape when I got to school. I'm sure he was expected to go to work without showing any sign of humanity, no emotion, no negative feelings about the situation. You can't be an angry black man at work, and you can't be an angry nigga at school. You know, we have gone through these things. I'm not saying black people are the only people that had to work hard or anything like that, but when we go through it, nobody gives a damn. You see what I'm saying? And I believe that whatever it was that made Americans feel, especially white Americans, whatever it was trickling down from the top that made white Americans feel so at ease about the way that we were treated is what allowed this knife to creep up to him so slow as to leave him leaking the way it is right now. Because the only way a society like this comes creeping up on you is if you're comfortable as hell. We never had a say in the matter. You see what I'm saying? They don't give a damn about what's going on with us, but you know, y'all the ones that are supposed to be moving this nation to and fro. So for it to happen under y'all nose, you had to be very, very comfortable. You know, the people that made you comfortable to vote, despite how disrespectful they were to minorities, like a Donald J. Trump, especially the first time around, had me feeling like his first term, I was like, it's over. We're out of here. I thought the kingdom was coming. You know what I'm saying? Y'all was comfortable. Y'all was settled on your lease. And that's coming back on you in real time. But what I want Jake to do, I want Jake to understand, like, this is the time to tighten up. You see white people crying about the way things are. You see white people crying about going through the things that you learned to just do breathing exercises about and just make it look good. You know what I'm saying? Remember, you the ones that made white people think it was cool to struggle. You know what I'm saying? You make it look good being ghetto and ratchet, the things that they would call that, and making it, you made that look good. You have to think about it. What you made look good, they're ready to crash out about. And if you see that, you have to understand now is the time to tighten up. These are the days that the scriptures was telling you about. The days are upon us when it's going to be like a chaste row, and people are going to return to their own people groups, and people are going to take up arms, and people are going to stop heeding the warnings of their princes, and they're not going to regard their words anymore. And they're going to do the things that they stand in their own strength to do. Warlords are going to rise up. Militias are going to start to decide to take matters into their own hands. Militia's full of people like that. And some of them are going to blame you for the issue because you're getting the good jobs. You see that? You're getting the good jobs and you're eating up all the food. And it's the black person's fault and it's the Mexican person's fault. It's your fault because you're getting all the benefits and there's no money in the illegals. All that rhetoric, they have it in their heart and they're suffering. And so the only thing for them to do next is to make you pay for it. So when all of this collapses, they're going to want to take their frustrations out on something. That's what I'm saying. So if you wasn't taking the Most High's words seriously enough before, I would recommend that you get into shape, get into ministry, start to do your share of the work. Start to really follow Mashiach's lead. That's what you got to do.
Been working since 5 o'clock. It is now 6 o'clock at night, and I have another 3 hours left to work because I am working around the clock to be able to afford life because it's so damn expensive. And I'm affording life. We're getting by, but I have not seen my family in 3 days. And I got to do the same thing tomorrow. I got to work around the clock because bills are being bills. And y'all might say, oh, the economy is fine. Everybody's surviving. No. Keep telling yourself that little lie. We are all hurting because of one person that is in charge of this country. So yes, we need to make a change. Period. Because we are all drowning except for the rich.
Oh, damn.
This is a 3-day crash out. I don't get political. But I do get political when it affects my finances and when it affects my life. This sucks.
They do. They do, bro. They do.
I don't even want to hear it.
Bro, and there's just nothing else that you can cut back on, boy. There's no more cutting back on Starbucks, coffees, subscriptions. There's nothing left. I'm out here managing and budgeting using the vending machine. I'm going days where I'm like, bro, I ain't gonna eat for lunch. I'm gonna wait till I get back home. Ain't nothing else left to cut out. It's crazy. I'm making the most money I probably didn't ever make. Ain't no probably. I didn't ever made. Yeah, I don't ever see it.
I feel you, brother. I feel you, brother. You would think where we come from that when you start to see certain economic heights that you would reap a certain reward that you've always been wanting to reap. But it's like when it's your time to reap that, it's like, damn, that's no good anymore. It's like money ain't no good no more. You know what I'm saying? I feel you, brother.
It be gone. The bills be snatching it. I'm not even gonna say we not making enough money. Everything just too high. Ain't no way at 36 an hour, getting close to 40 an hour, you just barely making it. You just be having enough and maybe a couple hundred extra. That's crazy. What is going on?
Can someone explain to me how we're supposed to get ahead in life? Seems like every time I try to have money saved up, something comes up. Whether that be my car, my child needs something, dental work. I mean, there's always something. My gallbladder needs taken out. Oh man, that's gonna be $2,000 for a CT scan.
Better be lucky we got them. Hey, they better start. We need that. That'd be funny if they made Good Times again, but it was with broke Irish people. We better be lucky we got them, boy. Oh boy, oh, we better be lucky we got them. They'll never take me Lucky Charms. Well, maybe they will when I get evicted. Holy sh! Let me stop, man. Rilla 1983. You funny for that one. You funny for that one. Roxy Jules said, my check is gone before it deposits. I feel you. That money is already allocated. You know what I mean? Chef Eddie said, just like Greenwood and the other prosperous Black communities. Aerial bombing communities, no apologies, no reparations, case dismissal with extreme prejudice. When Malcolm X said the chickens is coming home to roost, he was right. Them chickens is home. They are home now. They are roosting. That's a fact. And when you don't want to do right by the people that have been done unjustly, then the judgment is just going to come back on you. You know, woe to them and build up a town with blood, all that. That's what happened here. And you guys thrived off of it. And it's just, the treadmill is stopping. And so you're getting thrown forward by the inertia of it all. It just was a matter of time before it happened. You know what I'm saying? It's unfortunate for y'all. But you see, it says the scriptures say when the righteous bear rule, the people rejoice. When we rule, people are going to rejoice because we are going to rule using the Torah. We're going to use the scriptures, the word of God, not adulterated, not redacted. We're really going to do that, and we're going to live by that. And the cruelties of this world are not going to exist in the next world. The unfairness, it's not going to be there because we won't be allowed to rule that way. Mashiach is not going to point a finger and say, go do wickedness. He's going to put justice and judgment in the earth. The people are going to rejoice, of course, after they get their punishment. You know what I'm saying? But when the wicked bear rule, man, the people mourn. The people mourning right now because their fathers are wicked as hell. That's what judgment tastes like. That's what judgment smells like. And they don't like either. Are you familiar with the channels TNC Apologetics or On Day 3? Yeah, on Day 3, I've debated with myself on if I'm gonna go in there and talk about the Trinity or not. I see that they like to talk about the Trinity. I don't know if I could have a decent discussion in there, but I am familiar with On Day 3 for sure.
Why do we even have medical insurance if they don't even pay all of it? Why? It's all about money, money, money. Take, take, take. We need a break, y'all. This is getting old real quick.
Man, I got a debate set up with On Day 3 on Deuteronomy 28, which I would like your expertise. I would say if the best way for me to do it would be to talk to you directly. If you want to click the link, we can have a brief discussion about what not to do in Deuteronomy 28. And this is going to upset a lot of Israelites, but it would be best to get ahead of it. It's how you deal with Deuteronomy 28:68 that is going to make or break the entire discussion. If you go in the King James Version in 2026 and go to Deuteronomy 28:68 and give the old breakdown that we be sold to our enemies, and you read that and you stand on that, that's not going to be good. Because unfortunately, that's not rendered properly. It's rendered good in ESV. It says you will sell yourselves. That's what's really being said. Let me see. And you know what? They unlike if you keep that in mind, they're not going to be ready for that. They're going to want you to go to Deuteronomy 28:68 so they can just hit you with the take that whole jaw. That's what they're going to want to do. So you want to go. Let me share my screen real quick. Excuse me. Go to the Blue Letter Bible. I'm going to share my screen. My computer lagging too, y'all, so forgive me. Let's go into the Blue Letter Bible. Hey, Jacob, shalom.
Shalom.
How you doing, family?
Doing good.
Jacob, shalom.
Oh, shalom. 1 second. Let me turn on to something. Shalom. Yeah, I'm doing good. I was the one that asked the question about Deuteronomy 28. I'm just using my wife's phone.
Con. So basically, what we're going to do is we're going to go to Isaiah 52.
Okay.
Isaiah 52, in a way, acknowledges Deuteronomy 28. Let me know if you see it on my screen. Are those letters bold enough?
1 second. Yeah. I got it on my phone too. So I got 2 phones on it. So
All praises. So Isaiah 52 says, "Awake, put on your strength, O Zion. Put on your beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city, for there shall no more come into you the uncircumcised and the unclean. Shake yourselves from the dust and arise, be seated, O Jerusalem. Loose the bonds from your neck, O captive daughter of Zion. For thus says the Lord, you were sold for nothing, and you shall be redeemed without money." In the King James, I think it is rendered a little bit more powerfully. So we're going to just go there real quick when it comes to verse 3. It says, "For thus saith the Lord, you have sold yourselves for nothing." So essentially it's saying you played yourself. And you shall be redeemed without money. So you sold yourselves you gave yourself for nothing, and you're going to be redeemed without money. When it talks about the redemption without money, it's talking about the blood of Mashiach, right? But when it says you have sold yourself for not, it's talking about Deuteronomy 28, us doing the thing that the Most High told us not to do, at the risk of experiencing the curses. So I'm going to go to Deuteronomy 28, and we're going to look at it in the ESV. I'm pretty sure this is where they are going to wait to go. If you go to Deuteronomy 28:68 in the King James, it says, "The Lord will bring you back in ships to Egypt, a journey that I promised that you should never make again. And there you shall offer yourselves for sale to your enemies as male and female slaves, but there will be no buyer. Now, the problem with buyer, the best way that you can deal with this is I would challenge you to look up that word buyer in the Hebrew and see the different ways that is used.
God.
Let's find out together. Let me know what you find.
I see the word kana.
All right. How many different ways is that word used?
Looks like several, like 6 or 7.
All right. Tell us the uses.
I see to get, to acquire, to create, to buy, to possess, to obtain. I see creating, redeeming his people, possessor.
Redeem.
Yeah, that word redeem. That's a good one.
Now, granted, it's only translated to redeem as far as the King James is concerned, right? It's only translated to the word redeem once. And that passage is in Nehemiah 5. Nehemiah 5, verse 8, it says, "And I said unto them, we after our ability have redeemed our brethren, the Jews, which were sold unto the heathen. And will ye even sell our brethren, or shall they be sold unto us? Then held they their peace and found nothing to answer." Now, this is not a proof text that you should go to unless you're challenged on it. But what you want to do is, if you're going to go to Deuteronomy 28, you should only go there to break it down honestly. Is that a part of the curses is that we would go back to our enemies. We would essentially sell ourselves and no one would be there to redeem us. Of course, we've proved in Isaiah chapter, the Isaiah chapter that we just read, of course, we just proved that there will be a redeemer and we would be redeemed without money after selling ourselves for naught. But if you're going to use Deuteronomy 28 to discuss the transatlantic slave trade, the conflict that they're going to have is that they're going to say in the transatlantic slave trade, people were bought, right? This says that people weren't bought. They won't be bought. So if we're going to follow their logic, we have to take away that, okay, these people are trying to sell themselves as slaves, but no one's going to take them as slaves, right?
Right.
If this is literal. The problem is Deuteronomy 28 still says that the Israelites, as a part of the curses, would be forced to do what? Serve our enemies in hunger and thirst, and in nakedness, and of want in all things. So you can discuss the conflict between these two verses and explain that if Deuteronomy 28 and 68 is to be read literally, that the text contradicts itself, which we know it doesn't. So it's just very important to acknowledge that Deuteronomy 28, 68, unfortunately, just doesn't say what we have always thought that it says, that we would be sold to our enemies. It just don't. If you can develop an argument based on that understanding of what Deuteronomy 28 and 68 actually says, then you do a lot better. I use Deuteronomy 28 and 68. I also use Luke 21 and 24. I would actually use Luke 21 and 24 first, but Deuteronomy 28 and 68 is a debate topic. That's already a problematic topic. You know what I'm saying? I would rather have a debate about the potential of blacks and Hispanics, or blacks being Israelites. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah, that's the advice that I got for you. It's a very minute aspect of Deuteronomy 28, but it's going to be the most important aspect of the entire discussion because that's where they're going to focus their firepower. Secondarily, you're going to want to be able to demonstrate how Daniel acknowledged that him and the Israelites were experiencing the curses, while demonstratively all the Israelites were not seeing each and every one of those curses listed. For example, he felt the curses, but he was made the number 2 in the kingdom of Babylon, right?
Con.
You see what I'm saying? Look at how some of the Israelites are experiencing the siege that's described in Deuteronomy 28. And then some of the Israelites were experiencing being exported. So you want to make sure that you have those points narrowed down. And they're going to say, well, if you don't fit every single one of these curses, if they're idiots, then you can't be an Israelite. When it's not necessarily saying that every single person who is an Israelite is going to experience every one of these curses. It's that we are going to be susceptible to all of those things as a collective. And everybody's experience is obviously different because we see that demonstrated in the stories captured in the Bible. We see it in Ezra, we see it in Nehemiah, we see it in Esther, we see it in Daniel. You see what I'm saying?
Con. I was also wondering because the type of slavery that we went through in America, I feel like it's described in Deuteronomy 28. Give me 1 second. It's kind of loud over here. But cause I had seen a breakdown of you and I forget where you broke down what you just broke down right now. You was, I think, on like a debate, and I was like, you're actually the first person that actually broke that down as far as being sold as versus them selling us. I mean us selling ourselves or being taken. So how would you rectify either like the Arab slave trade or us being in like west coast of Africa and then being taken?
How would I rectify it? What you mean?
I mean, like, how would you? Well, I guess how would you formulate that into Deuteronomy 28? Because I feel like the type of slavery that we went through, as far as our wives being taken, and us, our families being separated, and I'm more so focused more on that than trying to prove, I guess, like if we sold ourselves or we didn't sell ourselves. To me, I'm like, I get why they would go there and try to use that discrepancy, but to me, when I was first reading this back in like 2020, it was very obvious it's talking about our people. So
You see what
I
I'm
didn't need
saying?
nobody else's breakdown.
It's like what you feel and experience is never going to be proof to somebody that don't. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
somebody watching you experience racism is not proof that there is this broad racism because some people have different standards of proof. Some people their hearts are hardened. You know what I'm saying? So it makes it difficult. Like, to be honest, it's not about Deuteronomy 28. It's about all the texts, especially Luke 21:24. So
God.
that's going to be the hard thing, is that you're going to need a way to show that the curses of Deuteronomy 28 are cyclical and that they can happen in pockets. Are you familiar with Daniel 9?
Yeah, yeah. Sorry.
So after dealing with Daniel 9, let me see. I ain't going here in a minute. So Daniel 9, and I'm gonna go to 24. Um,
Actually, can I ask a quick question before you go there?
for sure.
Okay.
You still there, bro?
Yeah, yeah. I was like, can I ask a quick question before
Yeah,
you? Yeah.
yeah.
So are you saying that us proving our slavery in Deuteronomy 28 is rather hard because other nations have gone through like similar events?
It's not necessarily that it's hard. It's hard if you can't prove that it's something cyclical, because some Israelites, they make the mistake of saying that Deuteronomy 28 is talking about the transatlantic slave trade. So once the argument even seems like it's framed that way, then you kind of have to backpedal and explain how it's not about all these other things that happen. Whereas,
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, because I think most Israelites, I mean, would just say that the whole chapter is talking about the slave trade, and that's not right. Because
Yeah,
when you do your research and history, we went through several different captivities, and it's described in each of these verses. It's just the transatlantic slave trade was just so, I mean, like such a broad. I mean, I don't know how you say it. It's just such a popular event that it's like, I mean, it's obvious, like I said, to us, but to the other nations trying to prove it can be, I don't know what you call it, convoluted, because they try to always throw mud into it.
exactly.
I see what you're saying.
Exactly. So a lot of Christians and a lot of people that's just outside of the Israelite group, and some Israelites, we don't have
Yeah.
that without some of the Israelites, they automatically think that we're saying that the Deuteronomy 28 is the transatlantic slave trade. And even if you try to explain it to them, a lot of times they're insisted on defending an argument against the notion that you could be describing is not your view. So that's gonna probably be the stickiest part of your argument.
Okay.
So while the biggest thing that you're going to have to deal with is that chunk in Deuteronomy 28 and 68, the next thing is properly framing your thesis in a way that lets them know that Deuteronomy 28 happens in a cyclical way, and the transatlantic slave trade is one of those ways wherein we saw that come to an experience.
Okay. And by cyclical, I don't know what that word means. You mean like in a linear form, or like in a
Again and again, like in a cycle.
oh, okay. Oh, okay. Oh, like perpetual.
Yeah.
Got you.
Uh,
You be upping my vocab. I be hearing when you say words. I be like, where's
all
it?
praises.
All praises too.
That's the rap in me. Let me see.
Okay.
I ain't going to this verse in a minute. It's a shame. Let me see. Let me see. Give me a minute, brother.
Nah, you good.
I'm sure. So, I don't know, Daniel 9 and 11. There we go. So, Daniel 9 and 11 says, yea, all Israel has transgressed thy law, even by departing. So here's another nuance. It says all Israel transgressed the law, but when you read the events of, the Israelites getting deported, the royalty, it describes Daniel and the three brothers as being without blemish. It describes them as righteous. So it's something where if the nation is going off, even those that are innocent get caught up in the destruction. Christian will argue differently, but you still get to stand on what you stand on because it's your position to defend. But it says, all Israel has transgressed the law, even by departing, that they might not obey thy voice. Therefore, the curse is poured upon us, and the oath that is written in the law of Moses, the servant of God, because we have sinned against him. So it's very important. Now, here's an instance where Daniel is experiencing the curses of Deuteronomy, but he's experiencing it because he's thinking as a collective. He's not thinking as an individual. And what this proves is that not only is this something that can happen again and again and again, because it happened to the Northern Kingdom as well. It happened to the Northern Kingdom at
least 100 years. Well, not 100 years. It happened a long time before it ever happened to Judah. Whole different.
Right.
And
Because
it,
of that promise to David, right?
yeah. And look, even before it happened to, the northern kingdom, the Assyrians that took the northern kingdom invaded Judah and sieged Judah. So a Christian oftentimes is going to be like, oh, that already happened once. And it happened with the Babylonians and it happened with the Assyrians, because that's the rhetoric that usually comes up. But Assyria invaded Judah first. Then it took the northern kingdom. You see what I'm saying? Then you have the Babylonians come along and take the bulk of the southern kingdom. But you actually have a wall relief called the Siege of Lachish. And it's depicting the Siege of Lachish from when King Sennacherib came in and actually took some Jews.
Right, and they look just like us with the bees on the belly.
All them beady beady looking like me when I need a haircut. You know what I mean?
Just saying.
So this curse is poured upon us, and the oath that is written in the law of Moses, the servant of God, because we have sinned against him. So the hard thing is when you deal with a Christian, especially if you speak eloquently, if you stand strong, the hard thing is going to be them wanting to pull your card and have you prove it. So it's really hard to counsel you on the debate, you know, because I know me, when I come into a discussion, I be as genuine as possible. And so I will make a statement because I want to make sure that I'm edifying the audience and not just beating the hell out of the Christian. I will say, and I dare you to tell me to prove it. You know what I'm saying? I'll make a quick statement that I'm ready to prove, and I'll tell them, I dare you to tell me to prove it. You know, and then I can come with my facts upon facts. So a hard thing for you is going to be getting that time in. So you just want to make sure that you plan for their objections. You want to plan for if you're able to get your whole point off, and you want to be able to pay attention to how the discussion is going. You're getting cut off at every turn. You want to have another package to deliver that's based on if it's going like that as well, which is, it basically means you need to have two different forms of your presentation. But it all starts with these two things: proving that the curses are cyclical, and proving also that the Israelites still become slaves, even though Deuteronomy 28 and 68 says that nobody is going to buy them as slaves. And therefore, it can't be actually saying that nobody is going to buy them. It means that no one's going to redeem them from servitude, and that we are, in fact, selling ourselves into slavery by dealing falsely with the Most High. And that Isaiah 52 validates that.
Nah, calm, brother. I appreciate that. That was very beautiful.
So in Babylon says, I think the problem with Isaiah 52 is they might say that that was specific to the Babylon captivity. And if they say that, that's beautiful, because it still shows that they don't know Deuteronomy 28 like they say they do. And they don't believe that Deuteronomy 28 is saying what they say that it says, because they won't be able to deny that the Israelites were actually slaves in Babylon. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So even if it's talking about them being slaves in Babylon, and the Most High is delivering them using another nation coming up against them, because we know that the Medes and Persians are the ones that come and cause Babylon to surrender, and that all of the spoils of war are given over to the Medes and Persians before the Persians completely take over. That still proves that the Israelites are slaves all the way up to the royal line in Daniel. You see what I'm saying? So Tony in Babylon, that's actually a great point, and that's an angle that you can wait for and use to your favor. Expect the directions they might come from, and if they do, you just need to have a counter ready, because they really could say that. A lot of people they think everything begins and ends with Babylon.
Yeah, I can see them saying that. But the Christians, that they have a pea brain anyways, and I've noticed from watching debates that most of these Christians have like a Manchurian candidate type of debate style in which they just start repeating themselves without ever really explaining themselves when you ask them real questions.
Yeah, but you want to make sure, because it's easy to underestimate a Christian, but even an idiot can listen to a good argument. You know what I'm saying? And what they often do, like they're Sam Shimon fans. I be observing them. They're Sam Shimon fans. So when they fanned out because Sam Shimon came on their channel, that tells me, okay, they be watching, they be taking notes, and they'll write down different arguments, and they'll write down different rhetoric the same way that an Israelite would. They're watching camp videos and they're writing down scriptures, and somebody pulls a scripture and they appear to cut somebody, and they want to use it until somebody knows the context of it. It could be like that if we underestimate them, even with their pea brainness.
I do study my opponent though. I mean, I've been studying him for about the last, I come from like a basketball background in which you watch film on your opponent and then you go out there and execute. So I've been watching film on them because I had to understand the Trinity myself. Because I was like, what are they talking about? Like, how are y'all reading this into the text? Like, I don't even. So I had to understand it, and then once I understood it, I'm like, okay, now I know how to defend it, or go against them.
All praises, all praises. You got any other questions on the topic?
No, I think you covered it. I was just I just want to thank you for that breakdown, because you did show me something I had never really looked into before. So I always appreciate my our brothers doing that for the younger brothers out here. So
all praises to the Most High. Man. Where you located at, brother?
I'm in Tucson, Arizona.
Tucson. Who you locked in with out there?
Huh? Would you say that again?
Who you locked in with out there?
Not honestly, nobody really, because like it's I don't know how to explain it. I mean, I don't think I can go to is what Christ said is you're gonna have enemies of your own household. So I had to get away from everybody. It's just me and my wife right now. We just following the commandments, doing what we got to do out here. So
It be like that, brother. Hey, do me a favor, man. Tap in with us. I'm gonna send you my email.
Okay.
FireGodClassroom@gmail.com. We got Bible study in the morning. Okay. We got Bible study in the morning, 11 a.m. West Coast time. I still need to set that up, but when I do set it up for tomorrow, I'm gonna put the link in the chat, so be ready for that. But join the school, man. Ain't nothing better to do than join the school, get your hands in ministry, because that's definitely gonna help. And we have a family first environment, so you and your mom will be able to go on the thing together, and we ain't gonna get in the way of that.
I appreciate that. I'm really doing it. I really want to do it for her, because I feel like she needs, people who aren't just me telling her, the stuff. I've been teaching her for like the last 2.5 years, and it's been amazing. But there's some ups and downs and stuff. And when you're the one telling her, having to correct and do all that stuff in the beginning, so we just ask for y'all the blessing out here, man.
For sure. Hey, I'm gonna put up prayers for y'all too.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Hit the email, brother. I'll definitely respond.
All right, Con.
Shalom. Nicholas Jacob, shalom, family, shalom.
Shalom, man. What's going on, man? I've been trying to get on here for a minute just to chop it up with you. How's everything going, bro?
It's going and going and going and going. You know what I mean? How about you, family?
Trying to endure, bro. I'm ready to get the hell up on out of here. Excuse my language, but I'm tired of this place, man.
You good, bro? You good? We on rated R time. It's 8:12 p.m. You good? What you got going on, brother?
Yeah, man. Just since you brought up Deuteronomy 28:68, I have heard a Christian come from that angle, that you have brought up as far as, especially dealing with the Hebrew, then going to different translations as far as it says that the Israelites we would sell ourselves into slavery, and also going to what's the scripture that actually says that was your iniquities have separated between you and your God. I think that's something that that could actually that ties into that as well too.
That's heavy. That's heavy. Whoo! Actually, I'm not gonna lie, man. Ones like that, it really puts a better perspective of accountability on us. You know what I'm saying? Like you did this to yourself. And if you kind of make the most high, which we should never do in real life, and even if it's to try to be practical, if you take Elohim or you take El for what it is in power, when you want power and you have power and you betray what it is to possess power, like let's just say you are maybe a manager somewhere or you're a business owner. When you give your power away, it can't protect you. And that's what the scriptures is telling us, is that you gave your power away. You said to hell with the Lord. You did this to yourself. You're antithetical to your own success. So texts like the one you just mentioned, where your iniquity separated between you and your God, I think that's Isaiah. I don't remember which chapter, but that's a heavy hitter right there. That's Isaiah 59:2. You there, family? I can't hear you at this time. If you are there, try going out and coming back in and see if that. Oh, you go. Oh, there you go. Hey, there you are. And you're muted at the moment, family. Y'all like, share, and subscribe. We're gonna go a little bit longer. I want to know if there's any Christians in here that disagree with some of the things we were saying about the Trinity earlier, because I'm gonna bring up a controversial scholar in Bart Ehrman in a minute, and he's gonna kind of roast the Trinity.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, brother.
The connection to my house is just garbage right now, man. It was a whole storm yesterday that just messed up everything. So it's a lot. My bad.
Glad you made it through it safe, man. That's what matters.
Yeah, but damn, where I had missed so I forgot where I got cut off at. What were you explaining? My bad.
You had brought up Isaiah 59:2, where it says your iniquities are separated between you and your God.
Right.
Yeah. So then I had basically echoed your sentiments toward that, in that it puts a lot of accountability back in our court. We got to look at what we did to ourselves by giving up our power. So I said that's a good text to pull.
Yeah, God. Also, I wanted to touch on this as well too, because about a couple months or so, not even a couple months or so, this time around, like last year, there was a Taino Indian sister who I guess we say, of course, she's an Israelite, you know what I'm saying, but archaeology, as far as the how we use archaeology to substantiate who we are, and as far as the 800 Hebrew stones or artifacts that's in Puerto Rico or whatnot, that being brought up into question, and I feel like what's more important, and I've even brought this up because I teach on the street corners here in Chicago as well. I got half of the Sakari Chicago set, had broke off, formed the own thing. But I even brought this up as well, more so than anything, any archaeology or any historical documents or whatnot. In Isaiah 43:10, it says, how we are, the witnesses of the Heavenly Father. All the curses, that fell upon our people, that fell upon the Israelites. Of course, we fit that to a T. And more so than any archaeology, or more so than any historical findings, I feel like what's most important is dealing with prophecy, as far as breaking down prophecy to our people and now substantiating who we are based off of what the word of the Heavenly Father says. You know what I'm saying? So that's why, yeah.
Hey, here in that same vein, watch, because it's the spiritual things, right? And oftentimes we want to look at the things that, yeah, it's spiritually pursuing us, Deuteronomy 28:45. But what about the other spiritual things that pursue us that don't take such a negative connotation? What am I thinking of? Is 1 Peter 2, 1 Peter 1 and 2. Let me pull that. It says, Peter, an apostle of Messiah, to the strangers scattered throughout Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia, elect according to the foreknowledge of God the Father through sanctification of spirit unto obedience and sprinkling of blood. Now, what's crazy to me is you look around, and even with the bad things that you say about the Israelites, you can say all the bad things that you want about us as a larger group. We know it's only going to be few of us that make it out of this thing anyway. The scriptures say so. But we are the one major group in bulk that has stood up all at once in order to even attempt to just keep the commandments of the Most High. No excuses. That's to the Israelites. Peter is to the circumcision. The scholars aren't going to argue against that. There's circumcision in Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, Bithynia. We're elected according to the foreknowledge of God, and we're sanctified unto obedience. So in the same places we're saying that these curses are taking place in this same people group, that people group is standing up, and amongst them there are people that are keeping the commandments of the Lord. Christians can't say that.
Yeah.
So that's a good move as well, brother. That's a good move as well at I-43.
Yeah, and also it's like, when you read certain scriptures like, that are definitely applicable to our people now and speak to the condition of our people, like Deuteronomy, or we can even see in history playing out. Of course, like you said, the curses are cyclical, as in they're reoccurring. We can see in history of certain kings of our nation in recent history being taken into captivity, or when you deal with Deuteronomy 28:31, having your ox being slain and your cattle being slain. We see that with our Native American brothers happening, and of course even Deuteronomy 28:49, that happening. A nation coming up against you with a tongue that you didn't understand. You know what I'm saying? And you might encounter an argument of, well, that can apply to anybody. Well, sure, okay, if we take that stance, if it applied to anybody, okay, well, I'm saying that it applies to you. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that, I feel like it's the most important thing. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, more so than any archaeology or something,
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
And then how many of those people groups that it also happened to have a heritage that they can trace? Because the Israelites is saying that it's going to get to a point where they can't trace their heritage anymore. You know what I'm saying? So we got that working for us too. But then it's like, it's not like we're saying we're the only Israelites. So what's the point of throwing that out there? We're looking at how in mass, nobody's been affected like this outside of us, at least on this side of the world. And then it's like, all we could do is be like a pit bull and, hold on to him by the neck with that. It's like, you're not going to make my argument be something it's not. Shoot.
Right. Just one more thing too, man. I appreciate you letting me on though. As far as Deuteronomy 28:68 goes, as far as how we would tie that to the transatlantic slave trade, as far as the saying you shall be taken into Egypt by way of ships, how would you go into breaking that down now with the understanding that you have?
Let me see if I can find something for you real quick. Let me see. if you like even a loose Google, I would just start racking up scholars that speak on this. But if you look at BYU Religious Studies Center, you have people journaling in there. It says biblical scholars understand Egypt in the text as a complex dualistic motif. On one hand, it represents the archetypical place of oppression, idolatry, and worldly bondage. You know what I'm saying? On the other hand, it serves as a literal heaven of refuge, agricultural stability, and protection during regional famines. You see what I'm saying? So you'll have scholars actually chiming in and talk about the dualistic nature in which the concept of Egypt is presented versus the actual Egypt.
Right.
And so, I would just heap up scholars that have something to say about it. I would obviously put my preference towards linguistic scholars so that they can go into the technical reasons why you can even see a dual nature to Egypt, because it means double straits. It could be talking about upper and lower Egypt, and then it carries the connotation of an oppression narrative. So it's captured in many ways just with the word in itself.
Right. God. Sure,
Yeah.
man. But that's pretty much it, man. Once again, bro, I appreciate you letting me on just to chop it up with you. Like I said, I've been trying to get in touch with you for a minute. You know what I'm saying? I know you're not on social media like that. You know, it's good to hear your voice. It's good, usually whenever you go live, I'm usually here, so stuff like these, stuff like these, when dealing with, being in this walk and, for as long as I have been, going on about 10 years, stuff like this, helps me keep going. You know what I'm saying? If you understand what I'm saying.
Facts. Being able to tap in with brothers that's enduring and doing the work, seeing brothers doing good. It strengthened me. You and the other brother coming on here asking questions and just chopping it up, it's strengthening me to give and to have that give and turn into people really engaging with you that's got the same frame of mind, man. It mean everything, because it'd be hard speaking to the wind out here.
Yeah, trying to remind our people of who we once were, and the fact of, trying to provoke thought of, we lived, we lived a certain lifestyle, of, years, centuries back or whatnot, and all of a sudden we find ourselves not living that lifestyle. We talk about ourselves being kings and rulers and princes, and all of a sudden now we're not there anymore. All the riches and complex kingdom that anymore. You know what I'm saying? And it's people, and especially seeing like slave movies, he's a slave, and we see all these things, and it's like we never think to ourselves all the things that we've suffered, and there's nothing that's going to happen to rectify that. And it's like we become complacent with that,
Yeah.
It's trying to, rewire our people's minds and tell them that we actually come a certain place. You know what I'm saying? And the only way that we're truly going to get back to that place is, by coming back to the heritage that we once had. And of course, understanding the most important thing and the reason in which why we're, not in the, not where we, are designed to be at, is because, of course, we've forgotten the fear of the Heavenly Father. And ultimately it led to us not loving each other. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, we have to remind constantly, and I'm pretty sure you can relate to this, remind our people going through the curses, reminding our people of the fear of the Heavenly Father, understanding why we're in the predicament that we're in right now, how we not just how we got into the predicament that we're in right now, but why we're in the predicament that we're in right now and how to get us out of it. You know what I'm saying?
For sure. Exactly. Hey, you should email up as well, man. Tap in, brother. If I'm not here, I can even link you in with me and the bros, man.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I'm like I said, definitely also like I said, I know you're not on social media or whatnot. I could probably, I do these little AI pictures or whatnot, just to show black and brown, Israelite images, you know what I'm saying, of our people, in our first estate, and I guess what I would, picture the kingdom of heaven being like, for our people, you know what I'm saying, because like I said, although we lived, as royalty at one point, although we had, kingdoms and peace and whatnot, and it's like we've been so long removed from that to the point where us even the fact of we can't even fathom us having sovereignty and having rulership over all nations and even being at peace and truly loving each other as the Most High God told us to be. You know what I'm saying? Us, not having issues amongst each other. Us not, having all manner of strife, and us, what I'm saying, truly loving each other, making babies together, and just being, loving each other as a nation. It's like we've been so far removed from that, and it seems so far fetched. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. It's trauma. It's like the worst thing for me coming out of the world, even in micro steps, like when I met my wife, one of the worst things for me to overcome was what it was like sitting in a quiet room. It's quiet at night because at night I had grown accustomed to just being awake, being up all night. Because one, I can't sleep, and two, that's when all the bullshit's going on. And so I would drink and I would just be up all night. And once you become like a thing with a woman, and especially if she's on something productive, and you can't be like that all the time, you realize just how full your mind is of all the wrong things. And so a lot of us, the hardest thing we're ever going to face is what it's like being locked, just you versus you, and actually having to confront that individual. Like I've been speaking on the camps lately. I know you done seen the thing with the brother and his rib being put out there and all of that. A lot of times we fall into doing the work outside. The Pharisees, they wore their fringes on the outside of their garments. Us, we do the work at camp, and then we run from the work in here. And we run from the work in here, so it's hard to visualize a time where we're at peace because there's always a war going on here. Like there was always a war going on in my mind that made it to where I can't be sober at night in my room. I can't go downstairs, or I can't go to a block where I used to go to with my homeboy and not drink myself stupid because the war going on there. I can't confront the loss. I can't confront the hurt because it makes me feel vulnerable. I can't be vulnerable because if I'm vulnerable at war, when you're vulnerable, you die. You know what I'm saying? So we really have to be reborn in that there is a safety in Mashiach and in Yahweh, and really trust in that so that we can be vulnerable enough to drop that old man. On the point of what you're saying, we can't fathom ruling because we can't even rule ourselves. A lot of us can only point the finger at the next man and say, you're going off. So that's the biggest feat for us to overcome right now. And I'm afraid that is going to be what makes it to where the elect is only that small number that we know is going to be.
Yeah, for sure, man. Definitely tough enduring every day, bro. Of course, we understand that nothing is impossible, but of course, it's a Mashiach struggle, the most out of all of us, what I'm saying? Of course, we're not going to be susceptible to any of those things.
Indeed. You be doing the work with the brother Tazapaya? Is he still with them brothers from Sakura, Chicago?
He's not in the camp that that we're in. Like half of the camp, half of that sect, broke off. So
yeah,
but he congregates every now and then.
So that brother Shalom.
Usually brothers have to work or whatnot. Yeah, usually brothers have to work or whatnot. Because of us being in Babylon and shit. So it's like you just got to do what you got to do. You know what I'm saying? So.
Facts, man. Well, shoot, man. Hit the email if you ever need prayer, bro. I'm right here for you.
Straight up, bro. Same to you, man. Hey, peace and shalom, man. I love you, bro.
Shalom. Keep up the good work. All praises to the Most High, man. All praises to the Most High. Let's be encouraged, man. We're at that point where what do you have to lose by doing the hard work? Because we know what we have to lose if we don't do it. And I'm not saying that lightly. Like there's some things about myself that I find myself still having to approach to, speaking of my rib, like sometimes there's a conversation where I could say something like in a simple fashion and I find myself snapping like, what are you doing? And it don't need to be that. It's not necessarily that I mean anything by it and the intention is wrong, but it's the simple fact that when you don't learn how to process your emotions, identify them, be familiar with yourself, your behavior can affect others in a negative way. You know what I'm saying? So we have to do that healing because what does Mashiach say about offending little ones? We have to be accountable for every idle word. So this walk is about self-improvement just as much as it's about improving the person that you're trying to rebuke. That self-rebuke has to be double, triple, quadruple time so that we can fathom real love.
I'm really tired of this work harder bullshit. Like, how much harder am I supposed
Right, Simone's going hard out there, game.
to work before I'm actually allowed to live? I'm exhausted. I'm burnt out. I'm tired of waking up every day just to survive another day to still be broke, behind, and drowning. And maybe the problem isn't that I'm just lazy or that I'm weak. Maybe I'm trying to force myself into a lifestyle and a culture that literally does not fit who I am as a person. Because America is go, 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 go. Work, bills, stress, hustle, productivity, and then repeat. And if you're a single mom here, forget it. Because you're expected to do everything alone and still smile and act grateful for the opportunity that you have to be overworked and undersupported. I don't want a luxury life. I don't want designer shit. I don't need to be rich. I just want peace. I want enough energy at the end of the day to enjoy my child. I want to be able to cook dinner without feeling like I'm gonna collapse. And I want a home that's not a physical manifestation of my mental exhaustion. I want community. I want softness. I want family life. I want to exist without feeling like every second of my life has to be optimized or monetized. And honestly, maybe some people are built for this hustle culture. Maybe some people thrive in this environment, but I don't. And I'm tired of pretending like I do. I'm tired of masking. I'm tired of forcing myself to operate like a machine with my body and mind.
I appreciate you, family. No, I haven't done a lesson on the true name of the Most High. Not from what I can remember. Not from what I remember. To be honest, my current struggle is I'm learning the Hebrew, the modern Hebrew, the biblical Hebrew. And I'm trying to transition off of the Lashawan Kadash. So sometimes I still find myself in a crisis when it comes to that. So when I've come full circle, like right now, I'm calling Mashiach, Yeshua, if I'm calling him by name at all. I don't deal with Yahweh anymore, but I'm also not shouting it from the rooftops and beating people over the head with it, because it would be hypocritical if I don't get myself to a point where I'm at least an expert as to why I'm doing what I'm doing, if that makes sense. But when that time comes, there most definitely will be a lesson for sure. But not yet though. Not yet though.
Is screaming at me that this pace is not sustainable for you. People keep saying you just have to work harder. Meanwhile, I'm already running on fumes, like maybe, no, I don't need to work harder. Maybe I just need a different life. And maybe that means leaving. Maybe that means moving somewhere slower, somewhere more family oriented, somewhere where people actually know how to live instead of just survive paycheck to paycheck while pretending that this is normal. Because this shit does not feel normal anymore.
There is nothing else to cut. There's nothing left for me to cut. I have cut so much out of my life just to make it. When I say everything is high, gas price is high.
Oh damn. She said, "Ha." Where's she from? She from where Brother Yeshaya from. Ha. Somebody place that accent. Put it in the chat. Where's that accent come from? All praises to the Most High.
I'm filling up my tank every 3 to 4 business days. 3 to 4 business days. Everything is high. Food high. Light bills high. Gas bill high. Gas prices high.
Blood pressure high.
Rent is high. The sky is high. I am tired. I made the most money I've ever made in my life. It may not be much to a lot of people, but to me, it's a lot. I could potentially make up, not to put my financial business out there, potentially take home $2,400, depending on how I work. My thing is, I never see the money. I never see it. Where is it? Where did it go? It disappeared. It's in my account and poof, out. Gone. 2 seconds. Out of there. Gone. Like, just gone. I'm not understanding what is going on with this economy. I don't know what's happening, but I am tired of making the cuts. I bring my own lunch to work.
I feel like in Midwest.
I skip meals. I'm going to be a 2T by summer. I'm going to be a 2T by summer. I promise you. I don't know what to do.
We have officially hit breaking point. So now my question is, what do we do? The breaking point means that everything, as it's been getting more expensive, has now collectively gotten too expensive. So that it's not just people kind of getting behind on things. We're like from the point of no return where like there is no catching up anymore. Nobody can tell me I need to go work 80 hours a week doing something because I'm still getting now outpaced by the price of gas, electric, food. What are we supposed to do? Like this genuine human me to you, like what are we supposed to actually do?
What are we supposed to actually do? I'll tell you what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to repent, you blacks, Hispanics, you Native Americans. You know, and people, I'm not going to even hold you. You people who are suspicious that you might be Israelites. You people that have an inclination to the Lord, we're supposed to repent and keep the commandments. That's what we're supposed to do. Repent and keep the commandments and, you know, continue to make the best of it. Why repent? Because, well, why Jesus isn't really having you repent? And he's obviously not getting the job done. So when the prophecies unfold the way that the Most High really laid them out, you want to be on his good side so that you're obedient and faithful. change your life in that way, because there's no reversing this roller coaster. Things are going to get worse before they get better, way worse. You're going to be lucky if you got two changes of clothes, a lot of people, when shit really go down. Where the Christians at? I want to talk about a little bit more of this.
To prove really quickly and very concisely that the Trinity is biblical and is unavoidably so.
All right, let's see it.
Hey, this dude is funny right here. This Irish dude, I think he's an Irish dude, but he's about to go forth.
The Trinity is unavoidably biblical, and if you deny the Trinity, then you deny the God of the Bible, and therefore you are not a Christian.
This York is hilarious. First of all, that was never a standard for being a Christian. First century, no. Second century, it might have been a controversial topic, but it being a standard, are you kidding me? That's not till 4th century.
There have always been many Christians who have denied the Trinity.
And what happened to this nigga lip, though, to be honest? Is that a birthmark?
In fact, there were generations of Christians before the idea of the Trinity.
He was kissing something he shouldn't have been kissing.
Was ever created.
The concept of the Trinity is something that is quite simple, and yet at the same time it is uncomprehendable.
Well, there's your problem.
The Bible very, very specifically...
That's a cop-out. You can't comprehend it. You're not supposed to be able to comprehend it because God is beyond your comprehension. If God is beyond your comprehension, my question to you is, where do you get this standard for 3 distinct persons, one God? If you can comprehend that much, it must be because there is evidence somewhere, but there's not. Let's just watch this. I'm gonna let y'all enjoy this.
Very clearly teaches that God is one single being, but he is 3 distinct and individual persons.
No, it doesn't. That is a post-biblical philosophical innovation that was imposed upon the Bible to try to synthesize and unify all the different texts, the majority of which distinguish Jesus quite clearly from God, but a minority of which suggest that there is some sense in which Jesus is to be identified with God. And the question is, what is that precise sense? Now, the authors all had their own ideas, and they all differed from each other, but once we have all the New Testament in place and we're treating it as a single inspired corpus that is...
To be honest, the more I study the scriptures, I hate when, suppose like apologists, I hate when they treat the whole Bible like it's just one narrative. I know we'll talk about a biblical narrative, but when I say biblical narrative, it's respect that there is a story being told. But I don't like when it's being treated without respect, that a lot of these books are put together in a way that they were never meant to be. These things are compiled, and some of them were compiled together despite the fact that they might have even come from beefing communities. Take Paul and James and Peter, for example, beefing communities that have books compiled together as though they agree. And then when that happens, people lose sight of that and they try to force the doctrines together and make them make one sense.
Univocal and inerrant, then we have to come up with a unifying framework. We have to come up with one
Univocal is an interesting word. Let's look at univocal, because that's exactly what I'm talking about. There's a biblical narrative, but biblical narrative means that, watch this, I'm going to show you. Stop, share screen. So univocal means having one clear meaning or interpretation, leaving no room for misunderstanding or ambiguity. If you read any of Paul's letters and then you read the book of James, there's going to be you're going to feel like there's something ambiguous there, something that's in the gray area or even contradictory. You see what I'm saying? And the scripture is not univocal. like even if you read the way that the texts are written, the book of Hebrews is the most different from all the other Greek texts, in that it's the most elegant. But people will try to say that Paul wrote the book of Hebrews when Paul's writings they're nowhere near as elegant or eloquent. I guess elegance is a good word as well. But these nuances aren't understood. And so people try to make all of the different passages mean the same thing, as if each author has the same style of writing or describing things. We'll just let him do it. Let him do the talking. The white man will tell you.
That works, and that is why the Trinity had to be invented.
And this is prevalent through the entirety of the Bible.
It's not anywhere in the Bible. Again, it's something that was developed well after the Bible had been completed.
Jesus is God, the Father is God, and the Holy.
Remember earlier where we talked about how this one major Trinity verse in the Johannine comma was added into the New Testament by way of the Latin Vulgate. Remember how we talked about that earlier? So not only did the Trinity have to be invented, it had to be enforced as well. How's that happen systematically? Aren't the heathens nation's hair an abomination to the Lord? No, I don't even understand that one, brother. No.
Holy Spirit is God.
No, the Father is represented as God throughout the New Testament, and the Spirit is represented as God's active force operative in the material world. Jesus is represented as divine, and
if you look at the Spirit of God from Genesis, it's literally a force emanating from God, possibly even the breath of God. The Ruach Kadesh fluttering over the waters is the wind of God. It's like air from God's nostrils. Like imagine the air coming from your nostrils being sentient and independent of you. That's retarded.
in some sense as presencing God, but is not the very God of Israel.
Christians cutting the Christians.
Until maybe Titus 2:13 and 2 Peter 1:1, two of the very last texts that were written that ended up in the New Testament. They were written some point in the first half of the 2nd century CE. They referred to our great God and Savior, Jesus Christ. So they could be identifying Jesus as God. That what's going on here with Jesus as God idea could be bubbling to the surface, but what they don't do, and what no other text anywhere in the Bible does, is provides the conceptual substructure and explanation for how Jesus is God that at all remotely approximates what was developed between the second half of the 2nd century and the 5th century. That is this explanation of Jesus, the Spirit, and God as three separate persons, co-equally, co-eternally, and consubstantially comprising the one being that is God. That is the Trinity, and that is the entire...
Now, I don't know that the Trinity is one being. I don't know if some Christians think that, some Trinitarians believe it is. I always hear them say that he's one God, but three distinct persons. And I don't know if persons or beings. It is quite stupid. So, maybe there's a Trinitarian in the audience that might be so kind as to explain it to us. I promise you'll have a chance to explain what the doctrine is, but I'm tired of being confused about what the Trinity is. I don't believe in it, and it's debunked regardless, but I really want to know what is the standard for what the Trinity is. That's a good point. I mean, and I'm not gonna lie, brothers be crazy. Like brothers will eat processed food, they'll eat Pop-Tarts, they'll drink beer, they'll wear the fabrics that are not good for you, and then they'll call like weave abominable. It's better to just say, sister, be yourself, love yourself. But it's not good to say that It's an abomination if the Bible doesn't say it's an abomination. Maybe it's in there and I haven't seen it, but I haven't seen it. Let's just speak facts and speak love to our sisters. The scriptures don't say we can't wear blonde hair. Because there's African people, the Africans with the purest genes, the purest African genes, they have blonde hair and blue eyes. So I don't know if that's what the brother is talking about. Look at that. Share. Look at this. That looks like my cousin Anthony right here. They damn near look Aboriginal.
Post-biblical theoretical framework.
But Jesus is not the Father. The Father is not the Spirit. The Father is not the Son. The Spirit is not the Son. And the Son is not the Spirit. But all three are God. This is why you have things like, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God.
He feels like he is cooking. Hey, the Riddler, the Riddler for Batman really think he's over here cooking. That's why you have, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. Like, you dummy. Have you ever read Philo? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. In the beginning, God created the heaven and earth with what? The Word. There's not a Trinity there. It says he created the heaven and earth by speaking.
God.
That's a bad translation. John 1:1c says "Ke theos ino logos," and this is a predication. It's an X is Y formulation.
He's about to cook. I guarantee you, he's about to drop how the definite article is not even there on was God. It wasn't, because it's the God in the other iterations in that same text. It's the God, but when it said the word was God, it's more likely saying something like the word is godly or divine, or
with a to be verb connecting the two things. And in Greek, if you have a common noun that is a reference to a
I actually have not seen SOT's breakdown on John 1:1, but I do know that they were proposing that John 1:1 is not talking about the pre-existence of Christ, which I agree. It can't be, because Genesis is not talking about pre-existence. Once it says in the beginning, it's talking about the time frame in between the creation. So the moment that God's breath is hovering over the waters, it constitutes the moment where that beginning starts. So it's not, so people read in the beginning, God created the heaven and earth, is he created the heaven and earth, and then the word, and then the earth was without form and void. When really he created the heaven and earth, he started creating it when he approached it, it was already without form and void.
Specific individual who has either already been named in close connection or is very well known. If that common noun occurs before the verb in a predication, it should carry the definite article. It does not carry it here, which means that theos here should be understood as qualitative. So it's not indexing an individual, it is describing qualities. So divine would be a more accurate translation here. Now, a lot of people get upset about that because they want the God of Israel to exhaust the category of deity. In other words, to be divine is to be God. But that is a post-biblical concept as well. That is not something that we find anywhere in first century CE Judaism. And so that is an anachronistic way to interpret the qualitative use of theos in John 1:1c.
And all things were created through him. Colossians 1:15 saying that Jesus is the visible image of the invisible God.
So to begin here, Colossians was not written by Paul. This is one of the pseudepigraphic Pauline epistles. But now we're getting into image Christology. What would it have meant for first century CE Greco-Roman Jewish folks to say that somebody is the image of a god? It means they're a divine image, or more vulgarly, an idol. And on this, I would highly recommend Alexei Chadziadoniu's recent work on this, including this article, Paul's Iconic Christ Among Mediterranean Cult Statues, a comparison of divine images, from the Journal of the Study of the New Testament. This is an open access article, so you can access it just by Googling the title. See, Jesus is represented in a bunch of ways as a divine image of God, because what do divine images do? They make accessible the power, the authority, the very presence of the deity that they index, and they can be referred to both as the deity and not.
So now this is a nuance that a lot of Christians would never be able to deal with. When you deal with an icon, let me see if I can actually just demonstrate it to you. Let me see if I can just demonstrate it to you real quick. And this is why it's very important to understand ancient Near Eastern thought, because this dude right here, I need to see if I can interview him. That'd be fun to interview, dude. Excuse me. I'm about to have to use the bathroom in a second, y'all, so you're gonna have to bear with me. You know what? I ain't even gonna try to do it because I gotta go to the bathroom. Maybe when I come back, I'm gonna let dude cook. In the meantime, give me a moment. Un momento, por favor. Now my computer lagging. Lord in Christ. Hey, my bad, y'all. The internet was hating. How is my audio? How am I coming in? Am I back? Am I smooth? That's crazy. The internet was mad. Trying to stop our live stream. It might do it again, so fair warning, y'all. Unfortunately, our gathering might end here for the night, Lord willing, not so.
That there's one single God who is. My partner at the time was a theologian and really didn't like it, but I never actually.
This is Bart.
Doctrine of the Trinity.
This dude is renowned and infamous at the same time, and you're gonna see why.
Doctrine that emerges within Christian or
because again, it was something that I was just. It's just a fact. But I was in a children's service one Sunday as an adult. I was helping, and the vicar was explaining it in terms of water being liquid, gas, and solid, but still all being water, which I really liked. My partner at the time was a theologian and really didn't like it, but I never actually got to the bottom of why that was a problem.
Well, it is a problem.
But to make sure that we're...
Yeah, it is a problem, but it's like it's a problem for complicated reasons. So that's probably one didn't want. People have various analogies. That's probably the best analogy there is, but it doesn't work.
Okay, seeing as I never had it adequately explained to me, could you tell me why it doesn't work?
Well, we'll have to talk about what it is first, I guess. So the deal is,
yeah, that's true. We should do the whole what is the Trinity, and then why is it not the same as water?
And also why is it not the Bible, or is it in the Bible? When you ask what is it in the Bible, it really depends on what you mean. And this is why it's going to be important to understand what the doctrine actually is, because you definitely have God the Father in the Bible. You have Christ, the divine Christ as God in the Bible, and you have the Spirit as God in the Bible. So yes, you got all three in the Bible. But the doctrine of the Trinity, the doctrine that emerges within Christian orthodoxy toward the end of the 4th century, is not that there is a Father, Son, and Spirit. Everybody agreed with that, but there were Trinitarian controversies about how to understand that for a really long time, and still down till today. The doctrine that emerged is a little bit stranger than that. It's the doctrine that you have these three figures, Father, Son, and Spirit, all three of them. They are all equally.
You know what, Sister Roxy, if you are able to get to the link to Yahweh All's lesson on that, would you mind putting it in the chat or emailing it to us? I actually want to take a look at that. I tried to find it once before to no avail. But if you could put it in the chat for us, that'd be appreciated. I definitely want to check that out.
Powerful. They're all equally knowledgeable. They are equal in substance. They are equal in their essence, and they are distinct persons. They are different from each other. They're not the same person. They're different persons, but there's only one God. So you have three beings who are all independently God and separate from one another, but there's only one God. And so that's the doctrine. And of course, many people don't know that's the doctrine. When I ask my students, I have a big class of 300 students, I'll ask them, what's the doctrine of the Trinity? They'll say Father, Son, and Spirit. Okay, you got to have that, but what's the doctrine? Yeah, they don't know.
What were some of the competing views on the Trinity? If this is the most successful one, the one that we were left with, what were the other ones?
So there were several others. I mean, some said there were three gods. Some said that Jesus isn't, really God, not fully God. His Spirit isn't fully God. That was the most, in the 4th century, that was the most common explanation, is that you have God the Father who's almighty, but you can't have two other people who are also almighty, because if you got three of them, none of them is almighty. If you see what I mean. Only one of them can be all. If somebody's almighty, they got to be just one of them. And so that was a view that the Arian controversy that people might have heard of, propounded by Arius, was the view that I think many people have today. The God the Father is ultimate, and the Son and the Spirit are subordinate.
to God. So they're God in some sense, but they're not like God. And so that was a common view. Another view that was prevalent in the 2nd century before the Trinitarian controversies was one that scholars sometimes called modalism. And modalism is called that because it claims that God comes in 3 modes of existence. And that it has to do with how he's relating to the world and people, whether he's Father, Son, or Spirit. And so the analogy is that I myself, Bart Ehrman, I'm the father of one person, I'm the brother of another person, and I'm the son of another person. So I am father, brother, and son all at the same time, but there's only one of me. So there's one, but there's 3. And it's like that with God. There's one of him, but sometimes when he's ruling up in heaven, that's the Father. When he becomes incarnate as the Son who's going to die for the sins of the world, that's the Son. When after the Son leaves, he's the Spirit who comes down to dwell among his people now. That's when he's the Spirit. But it's all one God. It's just in 3 modes of existence. And that's more like H2O.
Similar claim that the Trinity is not in Scripture.
All right, let's see it.
That the Trinity is actually just invented centuries later. And I mean, you do actually hear this from people who today would call themselves Christian. Small group, but still you do hear that, who deny the Trinity, which, as far as I'm concerned, is the central mystery of the faith.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think you can have Christianity without Trinitarianism.
We had Christianity for almost 300 years before Trinitarianism, as it is understood today, was first articulated the way it is understood today.
That's hilarious.
The Father sending the Son in the power of the Spirit, in the self-giving of himself, and then empowering believers to then live a Christ-filled life is essential to the Christian faith.
That sounds so retarded, bro. Like you have to believe in this structure in order to put no effort towards give it what? I don't look at the dude's face as he's sitting there listening to this. He's like,
and then empowering believers to then
first articulated the way it is understood today.
I think the Father sending the Son in the power of the Spirit, in the self-giving of himself, and then empowering.
That's just a bunch of bullshit. Like, what does any of that even mean? The Father sending the Son in the power of the Spirit. What is in the power of the Spirit?
Believers to then live a Christ-filled life is essential to the Christian faith. I don't think you can.
What is a Christ-filled life? And why is it not a God-filled life? If they're all God.
Have anything other than that, and it be historical biblical Christianity.
But that's not the Trinity. And also, you don't have historic biblical Christianity today. You can't, because Christianity, even in the New Testament, was not a monolith. It was characterized more by pluriformity than by uniformity.
Now, this accusation often goes in kind of the vein of people saying that the word Trinity is not in the Bible, which I'm totally fine with, because the word monotheism is not in the Bible either. And the Bible is clearly monotheistic.
No.
That's crazy as hell. The Bible at its start is monolatriistic. Monolatria means one worship, one God being worshipped, but multiple gods being acknowledged. The Bible being monotheistic is hella disingenuous. At best, you could argue that Second Temple Judaism is monotheistic, but that's centuries of existence for the Israelites before you start to see monotheism and strict adherence to Torah by way of the different oral traditions that would come up and have to be produced in order to keep us on point in our various captivity when it comes to Babylon and going forward. Everybody be hyping up this, what's the dude's name? Wes Huff. Everybody be hyping up Wes Huff, and just immediately right out the gate, he said some of the stupidest stuff I ever heard. The next live, I don't know, next live Q&A, if you got questions now, you can ask questions now. There is a link in the chat for Christians who want to push back against any of the scholars on the channel right now who are naysaying against the Trinity. But if you got a question, please feel free to put it in the chat. Shalom to you, Kevin Williams.
No, it's not. There are a lot of scholars who would say the Bible is not monotheistic, including myself. You can check out my video at number McClellan 2719.
You can't even claim that the Bible is monotheistic when in the Old Testament they're acknowledging other gods, whether they're acknowledging them as idols or not. You deal with the watch this. I'm just going to have to put it on the screen. And my computer lagging again, y'all, so please forgive me in advance. If you deal with Deuteronomy 32:8, when the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. You know what I'm saying? Those bounds and those inheritance is really acknowledging a divine counsel, some people would call, or it's acknowledging that the Most High gave these nations over to these idols, or that these idols were the other nations' inheritance, but the inheritance of the Israelites is Yahweh. Watch this. It's affirmed even further later on. Let's go to the blue letter Bible. I'm going to share my screen. I'm not sure when the next one's going to be. To be honest, I wish I could tell you. Just keep an eye out on Saturdays. Typically, I'm going live on Saturdays. So we should all know this one. What's it talking about? It's talking about how Israel has one portion in Yahweh, but the other nations are given over to idols. You see what I'm saying? So in Jeremiah 10:13, it says, when he uttereth his voice, there is a multitude of waters in the heavens, and he causeth the vapors to ascend from the ends of the earth. And he maketh lightnings with rain, and bringeth forth the wind out of his treasures. Every man is brutish in his knowledge. Every founder is confounded by the graven image. For his molten image is falsehood, and there is no breath in them. Talking to the idols, the ones that are meant to, represent those deities and meant to be like a anchor of their power on the earth. There's no breath in them. They are vanity and the work of errors. In the time of their visitation, they shall perish. The portion of Jacob is not like them, for he is the former of all things, and Israel is the rod of his inheritance. The Lord of hosts is his name. So what Jacob gets, as opposed to what the other nations get, is a real God who is the one that formed, who ordered the whole creation, Genesis 1. And Israel is the rod of his inheritance. The Lord of hosts is his name. So see, the other nations were given unto other gods. And sometimes they're named as other gods. Sometimes they're called idols. But then you get to blatant texts like the book of Job. You know what I mean? Well, you never know, man. Just put it in the chat. I might be able to take you up on it. But if not, coming back, if we're live next Saturday, you never know. You never know, brother.
For one point about that, you can check out this essay that I recently published in the Oxford Research Encyclopedia of Religion. Or next year, I will be publishing an edited volume based on a conference that I helped organize at Brown University that gathered a bunch of scholars to talk about why monotheism is a problematic category for the ancient world.
It's not that we have to find, it's kind of the fallacy of specificity in terms of language.
I'm not exactly sure what the fallacy of specificity is, but I'm pretty sure the observation that the Trinity is not a biblical framework is not an example of it.
The early Christians are coming up with ideas. Okay, the Father is described as Yahweh God, the Son is described as Yahweh God, and the Spirit is described as Yahweh God. We don't believe in three Yahwehs.
So this is simply not true. The Tetragrammaton does not occur a single time anywhere in the New Testament, and certainly not in combination with the Greek noun theos. Now we do have the substitution Kyrios, which means Lord, occurring throughout the New Testament, and frequently in passages where the original Hebrew has the Tetragrammaton. And so it's functioning as a substitution for the Tetragrammaton in the Septuagint, the ancient Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible that the New Testament frequently cites.
And it's more important to note, you cannot pinpoint when. So let's look at it like this. He's correct. Dude in the blue, he's correct about what he says about the word Kyrios. But in the New Testament, you really can never pinpoint when it's supposed to be talking about the Tetragrammaton. Why do I say that? Because when you start to deal with the Second Temple Judaism, the Israelites have already agreed in terms of the people who are protecting the institutions, the ones who are governing and watching over the people. They have stopped using the Tetragrammaton just loosely, so that the name of the Most High is not going to be profaned amongst the heathen. They don't want the heathen knowing the name of the Lord. So they don't use the name loosely. So they'll start to call him Hashem, or they'll start to call him the Father. They'll start to call him Kyrios. So by the time you get to this Hellenization period, there's not even really a need to look for a replacement for the word Yahweh, the name Yahweh in the Greek. You would just call him Lord, or you would just call him the Father. So it's ridiculous to even look for the word Kyrios in that way and take it back to the Old Testament and see in the Old Testament he's called Kyrios. So Kyrios means Yahweh, because no, even Abraham is called Kyrios over 20 times in the Septuagint. So even with that, it's just don't do that.
However, that doesn't mean that you get to just arbitrarily read the Tetragrammaton into any occurrence of the Greek word Kyrios that you like. The ambiguity of a secular versus a substitutionary use of Kyrios is part of the rhetoric of the New Testament authors. They are using that ambiguity to explore Jesus's unique and not clearly ironed out relationship to God through.
I mean, look, he's the Lord in the sense that he is of authority. He's the King of Israel. That it doesn't even have to be that ambiguous. Shit, he could be called Theos, rightfully, because he is a God. He's an Israelite man. He is a judge of Israel, sitting on the throne of God on the earth. So even with that, I don't know why they would play that game like that, unless they just don't know. But I would imagine Wesley Huff knows better. He's supposed to be a scholar. If you know how to reach out, I would send him an email or something like that if he had an email available. If not, it's all good. I really don't got no gripe with the notion, because I agree that John 1:1 is certainly not talking about a pre-existing Jesus Christ. You know what I should probably do is look for the review videos that was made about that brother's lesson. So I'm gonna try to find those and use that as a means to kind of just search out his work.
Throughout the New Testament. So no, the New Testament does not identify the Spirit or Jesus as Adonai God even once, much less consistently.
Right? Only one Yahweh. Hear Israel, the Lord is God. The Lord is one God.
Once you say the Spirit is being called Yahweh or Yahweh, that's a problem. You can make the argument that Christ is being called Yahweh. People do it all the time, but they don't understand theonyms. And because they don't understand theonyms, or maybe because they don't even read in context, they're making an assumption that Yahweh or Yahweh is talking. They do it with Zechariah chapter 2. When it's an angel of the Lord talking, they'd be like, oh, it's Yahweh. But no, you read up, it's an angel of the Lord. It's talking on behalf of Yahweh. Let me see. I don't see the email at all. Let me see. Yeah, I don't see it in the chat at all on my phone, but maybe if I mod you up, it'll let you put the link in the chat. Let me see. I don't even know how to do that right now.
God.
That is absolutely not the Shema. The Shema does not say the Lord is our God, the Lord is one God. The Shema says the Lord our God, the Lord is one. It is about the number of Adonais there are. It is not about the number of gods that exist. In fact, the use of the first common plural pronominal suffix on the word Elohim with Eloheinu, our God, presupposes that Elohim is a generic class with multiple members, and that Adonai is just one of the members of that class. And again, the Shema is about how many Adonais there are.
So how do we then parse this out in a way that is coherent, that is theologically and philosophically valid?
And here is the crux of the whole issue, and here is the betrayal of the fallacies that underlie the Trinitarian apologetic. Because if it has to be coherent, and it has to be theologically and philosophically valid, that means you're presupposing univocality. You're presupposing that every author who had anything at all to say about divine mediation, about divine presencing, was expressing the exact same opinion, the exact same perspective, the exact same conceptual and philosophical framework as every other author in the Bible. They all had to agree. They're not allowed to disagree, because if they disagreed, then accounting for all of it results in something that is not coherent. And then you also have this idea about it being theologically and philosophically valid. Why does it have to?
Whose philosophy is my question. Whose philosophy? You're validating it with your current theology, but whose philosophy are you using to interpret this in a way that it justifies your theology? That's the part that be killing me.
be either of those things? Well, it has to be because you're presupposing inspiration. You're presupposing inerrancy. It must be because we need it to be. It didn't have to be for the authors. It could be ad hoc. It could be intuition. It could be something that they didn't really interrogate rationally or logically or philosophically or theologically. It could just be whatever was rhetorically useful for them. But for us, it must be theologically and philosophically valid because that is the Trinitarian discussion. How do we group this all together and account for it all in a way that is philosophically valid because we're responding to...
You know what's hella funny about Christians? Like, he makes a good point. What be funny about these Christians is when it's time to read a prophecy, they'll say, oh, that's prophetic language. And the thing about prophetic language is they're using the terms that they have then and the understandings that they have then in a time where, you know, and they are using this stuff to describe things that they've never seen before. Isn't that the same way they're talking about everything that's going on in the scriptures? But if that's the logic that we're going to take, why don't we use it across the board? Because yeah, I agree. So here's where we decide that we're going to go back in time and to the best of our ability, we're going to look at the materials from that time and what it would have meant to them, because we can trust that something is written with the intention to be understood, right? The best way to figure out how they would have understood it is look at the rest of the materials that they would have responded to in their time, whether it would be newsletters, whether it would be receipts, whether it would be, I don't know, you name it, or other narratives. You look at those things, and those will help kind of interpret for you how certain phrases are used, and therefore how you can feel safe interpreting things that look like it. I don't know, man. I'm getting a little tired though, y'all, man. I intended to hang out with y'all a little bit longer, but I'm a little bit tired. We got Bible study in the morning.
The interrogations of Greco-Roman thought leaders.
Hey, Toda family, I appreciate you, Sister Roxy. I'm going to check that out. All praises to the Most High. Thank you.
We need to defend our theology to these other folks, and we need to do so in a way that's going to satisfy their philosophical perspectives. So this is demanding that an accounting of divine mediation and divine presencing in the Bible satisfy our terms. It's saying we're not going to let these texts or these authors or the Bible as a whole operate on its own terms. We're going to demand it satisfy our terms.
That's not honest. That's not how you examine history. It's not how you examine, it's not how you do science. So it's ineffective. It's an ineffective way to come upon the truth. You're lucky if you get true results examining anything this way, filtering it through your preference. You know, maybe that's how you look for somebody to have sex with. Maybe that's how you look for somebody to marry. But even then, you need some type of rationale. You need some type of sound logic if you hope to have success. But, you know, success is subjective when it comes to those topics. Not the truth behind what the Most High was trying to say through his prophets and the apostles and Mashiach.
So that is profoundly fallacious. It's presupposing univocality, presupposing inerrancy, presupposing inspiration, all so that the Bible can be forced into the service of our own identity politics, our own arguments with the intelligentsia around us, and our own goals for the future.
And so that's what you get in terms of the Trinitarian conversations, but I think it's all there. One of my favorite ways of describing this is by the scholars Rob Bowman and Ed Komjowski, who actually just published an updated version of their book, Christ and His Critics, in that they come up with this acronym HANDS, H-A-N-D-S, that the Father, the Son, and the Spirit are all given the honors, attributes, names, deeds, and seat of God. And if you go through, you can find all of those. In describing God the Father is given the honors, attributes, names, deeds, and seat. The Son is given the honors, attributes, names, deeds, and seat. And the Spirit is given the honors, attributes, names, deeds, and seat.
So there's one seat. This is problematic. Watch this. This is problematic. Y'all can see my screen. This is Isaiah 6:1. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw also the Lord sitting upon a throne high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple. Above it stood the seraphims. Each one had 6 wings. With twain he covered his face, with twain he covered his feet, and with twain he did fly. And one cried unto another and said, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. And the post of the door moved at the voice of him that cried, and the house was filled with smoke. There's one voice. There is the seraphims that are crying out saying, Holy, 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 right? And then said I, woe is me, for I am undone, because I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips, and mine eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts. Who's the King? The King is the one identified as sitting on the throne. Christians will acknowledge that Christ is the one that does the saving, that he does the purging of sins. Well, they will presuppose that it's not the Father using him to do it. So they'll look at him as this Trinitarian figure, and that it is his role to forgive sins, rather than him being given a lot to forgive sins. That's what that he was created to do so. So watch this. It says, the Lord of hosts. Then flew one of the seraphims. Mind you, where are the seraphims? There's one seat, one throne, right? The seraphims are standing on the sides of the throne. Remember, verse 1, in the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord sitting upon a throne high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple. Above it stood the seraphim. So the seraphims are not in the seat. He said, one of the seraphims that were not in the seat flew unto him, having a live coal in his hand, which he had taken with tongs from off the altar. And he laid it upon my mouth and said, Lo, this hath touched thy lips, and thine iniquity is taken away, and thy sin purged. You see what I'm saying? Christ is likened unto this serpent. Christ is foreshadowed. There is an archetype hinting at Christ from the very beginning, like the seraphim or the fiery serpent that's erected on a pole, the bronze serpent that's erected on a pole in the book of Numbers. And what was it lifted up to do? To purge sins, to be a symbol of the Lord's mercy and forgiveness. But it doesn't do that on its own. It's not alive on its own. It doesn't act on its own. It is a device of the Most High. Just like these seraphims, they have a role, but they're not the Lord. The Lord is Echad sitting on his throne. And the seraphim, it removes the sins, it purges the sins, but it is not in fact the Lord. So what we have here, we have a contradiction. I think that's going to do it for the night, family. I'm going to wrap it up, man. I'm going to give you some drink. I'm going to chill with the rib for the rest of the night. I want to see y'all in class in the morning, so please feel free to come through if it's on your spirit to do so. We would love to have you. I'm going to drop the link for that, and then I'm going to get up out of here promptly. Here we go. There's that, family. So definitely make sure you're there tomorrow. We're going to be started at 11 a.m. West Coast time, faithfully, Lord willing. You know, he get me up out of that bed. For sure going to have class ready for y'all. We're going into Judges chapter 22. We've been going strong in the book of Judges, and we're almost done. And, let's just see where we end up next. But it's all about edification. It's all about just absorbing the word as much as possible. I try to insert myself as little as I can during those classes, but sometimes I gotta go in. So you just never know. Come see if it's to your liking. Support the ministry by liking this, sharing the link, and subscribing to the channel. It's the #1 way that you can support. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. And shalom.